Hey, what's up? It's Cute What If this side. Today we will be seeing, what if Deku was given second chance? Now before we move ahead with the fic, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for future what ifs like this. One day, long ago, a luminescent child in a small town in China was born. This single event would usher in a chain reaction where nearly the whole population would acquire special abilities we call quirks. Just like how one newborn child can impact the whole world, one slight difference can change a whole man's future. My name is Izuku Midoriya and this is the story of how I became Japan's most wanted criminal. It started with that fateful day that I had met my idol, the symbol of peace, the greatest hero the world had ever known, All Might. I had met him after he had rescued me and my childhood friend Katsuki Bakugo from the grasp of a villain using a slime quirk. But before All Might had to leave, I wanted to ask him a burning question I had. You see, my whole life I had always wanted to be a hero, protecting everyone around me. But there was an issue with my dream. I was born without a quirk, so I had to ask All Might if being a hero really did need the use of one. So I drooped to my knees and yelled, "Yes, I want to know if I can help people as you do without the use of a quirk." I just had to know. I couldn't let my inability to produce one stop me from obtaining what my heart yearns for. No, without the use of a quirk you can never be a superhero. If you want to save people, I would recommend you to become a police officer or a firefighter. I'm sorry, young Midoriya. His voice was soft and filled with sorrow as he spoke those words, almost like he was regretting saying them. But to me those words, which were filled with such weight that my whole world came breaking apart. Before I could muster the strength to find some sort of response asking why, he leaped away, and in an instant faded from my view. So now I was left all alone with my broken hopes and broken dreams. I wallowed by myself for a few hours until I finally found the strength to get up and sluggishly made my way home. Due to my lack of personal awareness, I failed to notice that I came home 4 hours late. The first thing I got was not a welcome home Izuku, but a good stern talking to. "Izuku Midoriya, do you have any idea what time it is?" I was so scared that something had happened to. My mother yelled to me. I rose my head to meet her eyes and whatever lecture she was going to continue creased as she stared into my deadpan eyes. "Izuku, what happened? Are you okay? Did Bakugo-kun tease you again?" Her tone quickly shifted from an irate mother to a worrying one. I didn't have the heart to tell her that the man her son idolized more than anyone on the planet had single-handedly crushed his dreams. All I could do was shake my head, walk away and continue to sulk in my room. The moment I opened my door I heard that video. It was the video that had inspired me to want it to be like All Might. "Never fear, for I am here." The video kept playing. I must have forgotten that I left it playing on loop. I quietly closed the door behind me and threw my school bag across the room, exposing the notebooks I made filled to the brim with info about quirks I discovered. What was the point? I said to myself as I slid down the floor with my back still up against the door. I started to cry myself thinking about the void of a future I had. Pretty soon my thoughts started to drift into sleep, still hearing All Might's voice throughout the night. It had been 10 months since that day. I don't really leave my room that often and my mother continues to worry. The only way she found to get me out of the house was to sign me up for a gym membership. It was a way of keeping me active and in shape, as she couldn't stand to watch her son simply wither away. As for my future, I never gave it a second thought. Being a hero was all I ever wanted to be, and without that goal, what purpose did I have? One day while I was walking on my way home I couldn't help but notice something was off. I heard sounds of some sort of struggle nearby and there was something that compelled me to run over to the source of the sound, like some force possessing me to do so. I pressed my back against the wall and peeked around the corner to see 2 people trying to rob some poor man. I quickly snapped back away from view, and about 1,000 thoughts rushed in my head. What should I do? Should I run and get a hero? Should I get the police? What if I'm too late to do anything? As I was overthinking with my mind, my body started moving on its own. I quickly grabbed a random pipe lying nearby and rushed into the fray, screaming at the top of my lungs. One thug had a quirk that gave him bat wings. He was the first to notice my presence. I quickly swung my makeshift weapons to the side of his head. It hit with so much force that he dropped to the ground. I quickly shifted my focus to the next delinquent and tried to take a swing towards him, but he was ready for me and he caught the pipe with his bare hands. Before I even attempt to pull my makeshift weapon free from his hands, they started to glow white hot, causing the pipe to distort and bend in shape. He's melting the pipe with his quirk. I thought to myself, "You're out of your league, kid. Why don't you just cut your losses and beat it?" The thug snarled out a threat to me, but I wasn't going to give up and run away, not when people are in need. So I pulled with all my strength and smeared the red-hot side of the pipe on the side of his lower torso, burning right through his clothes. I had essentially branded the man. His reaction to the pain was immediate. He doubled over, howling with pain, and I took the opportunity to slug him directly in the face, effectively knocking him out. Once he was out, I quickly ran to the old man. "Sir, are you okay?" The man rubbed his sides. "Yes," but before he could finish, something whooshed between us. I jumped out of the way. I looked in the direction of where the object was traveling. It was white, but with the looks of stone the length of a pencil, and it pierced the concrete. I darted my head to look for the source of the projectile. Well, what do we have here? Some sort of wannabe hero. The voice emerged from the shadows. He was wearing some sort of open leather jacket cutting off at his upper torso. Other than that, he looked like your typical delinquent, complete with blonde slicked back hair and everything. He must be the boss, I thought to myself. Leave him alone. I've already taken out your friends, so why don't you do yourself a favor and just turn yourself in? I tried to make myself as intimidating as possible. Another projectile was launched straight at my feet. I jumped out of the way, but I don't think he was even aiming for me in the first place. He was toying with me. He didn't find me at all intimidating, and he's ready to kill me if need be. Ahaha, you really think you're hot shit, don't you? Do you think I care if you knock those useless punks out? They're nothing compared to me. He paused briefly. I'll tell you what, since you seem you've got moxie, I'll give you a proper introduction. The name is Spinal Tap, and my quirk allows me to rapidly grow my bones in any way I see fit, and use them as weapons. What's more is that they come out hard as steel. With his introduction behind him, he rose his palms to me. I got into a defensive stance to get ready for anything that might happen. I have to do this, I have to prove All Might wrong. I needed to believe that I could be a hero without the use of quirks. But before any of us could make a single move, the alleyway was lit up in a flash of red and blue. Freeze. Police. 2 officers showed up with weapons drawn. Shit. Spinal Tap shot 2 of his bone projectiles at the wall behind him and used them to scale the building. No, get back here. I screamed, ready to pursue him, only to be tackled by one of the policemen. Stay down, the officer ordered. And no, you're letting him get away. I tried to beg them to chase after him, only to get my face dug more in the pavement. They talked back and forth, putting me in handcuffs in the process. They checked on the old man as well after putting me in the back of their vehicle. Guess it doesn't look good, seeing as I did technically assault 2 individuals. But I was doing the right thing, wasn't I? I was being a hero. Why was I being punished? In the end, they never caught Spinal Tap. I was taken down to the station, where I got the typical lectures of the dangers of running into confronting villains without calling for help. My mother came to pick me up while also giving me a lecture of her own after that went on all the way home. Honestly, Izuku, how could do this? Don't you know I worry about you enough? She continued. I stopped dead in my tracks, trying my best to hold back my tears and the cork in my throat. Do you want to know, Mom? About that day when I came home late. I looked at my mother dead in the eyes. I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. I got to meet him, Mom. Who? I got to meet the man I idolized the most. I got to meet All Might in person. And I asked him if it was possible to be a hero like him, without a quirk. Izuku, stop. And you know what he said to me, Mom? Izuku. He told me no. After finally telling her, all she could do was try to comfort her son in any way a mother could. The rest of the walk was spent in silence. We finally arrived home, both unsure of what we should do. Just as we made it home, the rain that had been threatening to fall all afternoon finally began to fall, and that's when the real storm began. In almost an instant after we stepped into our home, 3 projectiles had struck our door, preventing it from being opened again. My eyes widened in fear. I knew what they were. And standing across from us, in our small apartment, was Spinal Tap, wearing a smug smile. Damn, you people took forever coming home. I was almost ready to give up on you. He spoke slowly, walking towards us as I put myself in front to cover my mother. But how could I resist, knowing what a heartbreaking sob story you have? Oh, Mother, All Might said I couldn't be a superhero. Wah. His mocking tone suddenly grew serious. How pathetic. I can't believe that my underlings would be deafened by a quirkiness nobody. Spinal came right up to my face. Why didn't you just do the world a favor and kill yourself? Those words, coming out of Spinal's mouth, with Kaken's voice. He walked back to his original position. Well, guess I'll do the world a favor and take you out myself. He raised both his palms and fired out 2 bone spear projectiles. Everything started to feel like it was running on half speed. Fear had finally taken me. My legs felt like they were welded to the wooden floor. So this is it, huh? This is how I was going to die. Maybe All Might was right. How could I become a hero if I can't even defend myself? The spears started to come closer and closer to me. My eyes wouldn't leave the instruments of my death. I felt like my eyes were playing tricks on me, because really looking at them, they seemed like they started drifting away from me. But they were. I couldn't explain it, but with each passing second my certain death was looking farther and farther. They looked like they were going to miss me entirely. Then it hit me. It was my mother. She was using her quirk to try to bring the projectiles away from me and closer to her. My mother wasn't that handy with her quirk, considering she hardly ever used it aside from doing simple chores. But in this instant, without any sort of training or practice, she was using it to the best of her abilities to try and save her only son, even at the cost of her own life. I couldn't allow that to happen. I mustered all the strength to try to push my mother out of the way in time. But I was too late because of my hesitation. I was able to stop one of them from directly hitting her and only grazing my arm, and striking the wall behind us. The other spear one had made a direct hit to her chest. NOOO. I ran to my mother's aid, completely ignoring Spinal as he slowly made his way over towards me. Mom, no. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen, I whimpered, my voice cracking. I looked around, panicking, unsure of what to do, till I felt a warm hand on my face. Izuku. It's okay. It's a mother job to protect her babies, my mother said with a smile, while blood was streaming from her mouth. Oh, Izuku. I know it doesn't mean much, but you were always my hero. You never want to give up on people even when it all seems hopeless. You've always had a strong sense of justice. I really wish things could have been better. But know that you are going to grow up to do such great things. I love you, Izuku. Those were the last words I heard from my mother. I was so distracted that I didn't notice that Spinal had moved over to me until he grabbed me by the shoulder of my shirt and lifted me up to his level. Whoops, did I hurt Mommy? Well, don't worry, I won't screw up this time. Spinal lifted up his fist and was ready to give whatever final blow he was going to deliver, but something in me snapped. I grabbed the bone spear that had missed my mother and used it to stab him under his biceps. He immediately dropped me, and while he was trying to remove the spear from his arm, I lunged towards the kitchen counter and grasped at the hardest object I could see, which ended up being the rice cooker. I adjusted my grip, spun back around, and used it to hit Spinal upward in his chin, causing him to fall on his back. I got on top of him and started wailing on him to the point where he was unconscious. I threw the now broken device aside, trying to crawl to my injured mother. The neighbors were able to hear the commotion and called the police. My mother and Spinal were taken to the hospital while the police went to question me. Due to my display of violence, I spent the night in the cell. In the morning I was released and went straight to the hospital to see my mother. The doctors told me that the spear had missed all the essential organs and that she was going to make it, but that she will need to rest for a while. Spinal Tap was finally locked up, and while things were finally starting to take a lighter turn, I couldn't help but think of everything that had happened in the past few months. It's enough to break anyone. I'm sorry, young Midoriya, you cannot become a hero without a quirk. You're out of your league, kid. Why don't you just drop off the roof, Deku? I left the hospital with a feeling of emptiness. Why don't you just drop off a roof, Deku? I started to run as fast as I could. I didn't care where I was running, I just ran as fast as I could, not caring about my well-being or anything. I'd had enough of all of it and I just wanted it all to end, just like Kaken wanted. Everything seemed like a blur as I felt the rain stinging my face. I hadn't even noticed it has begun to rain again. And finally it all came crashing down on me. I felt so overwhelmed. Until, oof, life had given me a second wind. Hey, watch where you're going. You almost broke my babies. I looked up and saw a girl wearing what seemed like some sort of high school uniform. She had big pink hair that seemed to remind me of bubblegum, and yellow topaz eyes that had some sort of crosshair look. Hey, give that stuff back. That's school property. We looked over and saw two people running out of a big glass building that was emanating smoke. Oh crap. She turned to me and extended her hand. Well, don't just stand there, help me out. Please be my hero, she said with sparkling eyes. Without a second thought, I grabbed her hand and together we escaped from the school facility that I had wandered into. Woo lad, that was a close call, she proclaimed, full of energy, while I was having trouble trying to catch my breath. Hey, I want to thank you for helping me out, and if you ever need something made specially designed for you, then you can call on me. Meihatsum, she's exclaimed as if she proclaiming to the heavens themselves. Oh, excuse me, I asked, staring at this girl with a look of confusion of my face. Ah, I see we have a newcomer. Well, let me explain. I like to make babies. What? That's right, I make beautiful babies, and if you want, since I don't have anything else to do, I can make babies with you. I took a step back. Wait, hold on, what? My face flushed with red-hot embarrassment. I looked around to see the bystanders watching us. What's the matter? Don't you want to make babies with me? May began to approach me, getting right up to my face, and at this point, it felt like steam is escaping my ears. Al, look, you seem very nice, but I have to go. I begin trying to walk away, only to get my body jolted by an electrical shock. I dropped to the ground once the shock stops, and I looked up to see May wearing some sort of glove that's emitting electricity. Sorry, but I didn't want you to go without fully experiencing what my babies do, May said while slowly floating in the air through some sort of big, bulky boots. Then something came to me, an idea. Was this the girl? Was the answer I was looking for. So, what do you say? May asked one last time, holding her hand out. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and together with Meihatsum, we created a story. A story on how I became Japan's most wanted criminal ... and the world's greatest hero. The next day I began making my way down the street heading towards May's apartment, thinking about how I'd be able to convince May to help me become a hero. I felt like what I was asking her was almost next to impossible, and that she really didn't have to help me out. After all, we barely knew each other. But I had to give it a shot. If anyone could help me, it was her. I spaced out thinking of the moment that leads to this visit. So, I recalled what young Meihatsum had said to me. What do you say? I grabbed her hand to get myself up. After a while, she started to show me what most of her babies could do. Invention after the invention was so unique and more impressive than the last. Then a thought hit me. Would she be able to help me with becoming a hero? But how could she, and would she even be willing? Hatsum-sen, do you think you could make something for me if I were to ask? I finally questioned. May looked at me for a while with the same big smile she had on for a while. I had thought that she was about to say no. I mean if you can, I under. Of course I can make you anything you want. The sky's the limit with a mind and determination as big as mine. May said, cutting me off while closing the gap between us until our faces were inches apart. What exactly did you have in mind? Izuku, was it? Why, yes, but you can just call me Midoriya, and as for what I want you to build for me, I haven't really decided on what. But if you could just give me till tomorrow, I'm sure I'll have something ready for you. I said with my face blood red. Sure thing, here have this. She backed off to grab a piece of paper containing her general information, including her number and address. By the way, I like saying Izuku more. There's something about that name that rings better than simple Midoriya, she said while giving me a sort of look. With that, she packed up her stuff and walked away waving goodbye. As she disappeared from my eyesight, I began to make my way home thinking about what I would ask Hatsune. Jumping back to the present, I had finally arrived at my destination, which appeared to be your typical, small apartment complex. I glanced at the address that May had given me and made my way up the stairs, arriving at her front door. Before I could knock on her door, my thoughts drifted to how I could ask her to create something to help me become a hero. But those worries were interrupted by a loud explosion coming from behind the door. Trusting my first instinct, I kicked the door in and looked around for May. What I didn't expect was to get stunned with 10,000 volts, dropping me to the floor instantly. Once the electrical torture had ended, I saw May holding the same gloves from yesterday. "Oh Izuku, it's you," the young inventor said nonchalantly. "You know, Izuku, you shouldn't bust in people's doors like that. You'll give people the wrong impression," she continued. "I heard an explosion and thought you were in danger." I hurriedly began trying to explain myself. "Oh, that's cute, you were just trying to be my hero," she teased as she put that dreaded glove away. She lifted up these weird-looking goggles from her face, revealing her golden-looking crosshair eyes. She was wearing a black tank top with an orange mechanic's jumpsuit, with the top of it tied around her waist, and she covered in ash, mostly like as a result of the recent explosion. She pulled me up from the ground and I looked around her apartment and saw that it looked more like someone's garage than anywhere someone would reasonably live in. "So Izuku, to what do I owe this visit?" May asked while trying to wipe the soot from her face. I shot her a confident look. "Well, I was thinking about what I asked you yesterday, and I was thinking." I mustered up the courage to say the words I needed to say as she continued to look at me with the same happy look. I was wondering if you could make me something that will help me become a hero," I finally proclaimed. "What do you mean, like a gadget for your quirk?" "And no, not exactly, I was thinking. Like a full-on gadget that could make me be a hero." I tried explaining to her what exactly I was requesting. "You see, I don't have a quirk. I see all these amazing gadgets that you've made, and I get this feeling that you could give my dream a second chance." May kept looking at me with the same, almost spaced out look, trying to wrap her head about what I had requested for. "Hatsu." "No." May had cut me off before I could even question her. "Wait, why? But I thought you said you would be able to make anything for me." "Well, yeah, but I didn't think it would be something so big. I mean, you seem like a really nice guy and everything, but I don't know if you noticed, but I'm kinda working out of my apartment right now." May scratched the back of her head in embarrassment. "I mean, if I was still enrolled in UA, I might be able to help out behind Power Loader's back." "Wait, you used to be enrolled in UA. What happened? Did you drop out?" "I can't imagine with your brilliance that you'd flunk out," I asked, confusingly wondering how anybody would want to leave one of the most prestigious schools in Japan. May blushed a little. I wonder if it was something I said. "Well, you flatter me, but no. I was, expelled for Mayab having way too many explosions," she responded very sheepishly. "Huh?" I said, giving off a puzzling look until I remembered that when we met she was being chased by UA faculty emerging from a smoking room of a building. Looking around her apartment, I saw scorch marks everywhere, as well as some broken remains of whatever invention she had been attempting to make. I felt a little down knowing that my dreams were about to be broken again. But I wasn't going to give up. I worked up my nerve and looked at May with a serious look. "Hatsune, what exactly do you need? How persistent, aren't you, Izuku? Do most girls find that quality charming?" She joked, but her bluntness had taken me back and caused a slight blush to creep into my face. "Why do you want this so badly?" May's happy, cheerful self faded when she asked. I looked down at my feet thinking about what those words meant. All I ever wanted to do ever since I was little was to be a hero like All Might. But being born without a quirk made my dream near impossible. After meeting you, I feel like that could change, seeing your brilliant intentions in action. May turned around to her makeshift workbench to face away from me with her head down. "I don't know if you have ever experienced what it's like to have your dreams shattered before, and I feel like I'm grasping at straws, to be honest. I was hoping that you'd be able to help me. Sorry for bothering you." With that, I turned around to leave her home. All I've ever wanted to do was make amazing babies to my heart's content, and while I was at UA, it felt like that would be my reality, until I screwed up for the last time. Now I'm going to be lucky if the hardware store will let me buy a screwdriver, and here you come in asking me to basically make a nuclear bomb out of 2 paper clips and a piece of gum. Her upbeat tone was replaced with a sad somber tone. "Hatsune, if you can help me, I will do whatever I can to make your dream a reality as well." I didn't know exactly how I was going to keep this promise to her, but if she could help my dreams a reality, it's only fair I could do the same. May took a while to respond before turning around and returning back to her happy-go-lucky cheery self. "Well, if that's the case, then I have to help," she said, filling me with such joy. I actually started to let out tears while I laughed. "Ah, really? Oh, you betcha. Now I just have to go over some blueprints and see what components I need you to acquire." After a few moments to herself, May began to go over some of the plans with me. Some of them seemed like basic stuff until May grew somewhat nervous looking at the list. "Now there is a slight snag," the young inventor nervously said. What do you mean, what's the issue? The issue is this thing. May pointed at a small green device that looked to be the size of a normal CD. It's called a kinetic battery. It's what we're going to use to power the device that will make this dream of ours a reality, May proclaimed proudly. She was so sure that her plan could work with this device in hand. But I couldn't help but think about when she said our dream. It made me blush a little. Well, where can we get it? Something tells me that this isn't something we can just get at the local hardware store. My response seemed to make May a little nervous. Well, that's the thing. The only place that has this thing is UA. Wait, what are you trying to get at Hatsum? I asked, trying to get May to explain where her reasoning was headed. Well, I mean, they're not just going to give it to us, so we're going to have to steal it from UA. May's response took me back a bit. Stealing from the school that just so happens to specialize in training the next generation of superheroes. This girl was crazy, but what's worse is that she had put me in a moral conundrum. Do I steal this so I could become the hero I know I was meant to be, even if it means being branded a criminal myself? I looked down, trying to look for the answer deep down in me, but I was unable to find it. Was I really willing to go this far? I looked back at May, who had a concerned look on her face. Hey, it's okay. I can try to find another way. No, I'll do it. Now it was May's turn to be taken back by my response. If I want to make my dream a reality, I'll have to work harder than anyone else chasing this same dream, and be willing to do whatever it takes, even if it means if I have to break in and steal from UA. I finished telling May. May went right back to her cheerful self as she grabbed my shoulders and told me that she was going to get ready for tonight's heist. She informed me that the plan would require us to meet up late in the night. Midnight would be fine since the school's security would be lowest during the night. That evening, after dinner and before I was to meet up at the school with May, I dropped by the hospital to visit my mother, who was still recovering. I admit I must have looked somewhat suspicious considering I was dressed in all black, which wasn't common for me. I saw my mother sitting up admiring the night sky. She turned to see me at the door. "Oh Mom, how are you? I didn't expect you to still be up." I sat right down next to her, trying to help her feel more comfortable. I wanted to stay awake and wait for my son to come to visit his poor injured mother. I looked down, still feeling guilty about that night. "Don't worry Mom, I'll make things right." My train of guilt was interrupted by Mom whipping my face with one of her clothes. "Oh, Izuku, you're still such a messy eater. Even when she's lying on a hospital bed, badly injured, she still finds a way to act so caring." I smiled, knowing that not even a spear through the chest could damper her spirits. Mom studied my new attire, confused on my choice. Izuku, why are you dressed like that?" "Oh, it's for a small job." I looked at my phone to see the time. Speaking of which, I have to get going on that. Wait, you're leaving already? She reached out, trying to get me to stay. "Sorry Mom, I just came to check and see how you are." "Sorry, I'll come back tomorrow and stay longer, I promise Mom." I gave her a kiss on the cheek goodbye and ran out the door to go meet up with May. "Mom, I promise that I'll become a hero no matter what. I'm going to make sure nothing like what happened with Spinal happens again," I thought to myself as I paced myself to meet May. May had marked a place for us to meet up at, near the school border next to a grouping of trees. Unfortunately for me, it was pitch black and I couldn't see anything, so began calling out for May as softly as I could. "Hatsum, Hatsum." Hatsume popped out from the trees, hanging upside down and inches away from my face, scaring the life out of me. "Hey Izuku, you're late," she stated in that carefree voice of hers. Sorry, I had to stop by somewhere and run a quick errand." "Hey Hatsum-san, CC, could you not get so close?" I was always nervous around girls, and with May's up-close personality, it didn't do much to ease that problem. The young inventor flipped herself around on the tree branch and dropped to the ground with grace. Like me, she was wearing all black, the only difference being that she had some sort of messenger bag with her. May whipped out a small handheld device and steered a drone over to us, explaining to me that in my absence she had done some reconnaissance to gather more information before we made our move. Everything was going smoothly as we approached the school's wall. May removed what looked to be a grappling hook of some kind from her bag and tossed it onto the wall, then tugged at it to make sure it would hold. Turning to me, she asked, "Okay Izuku-kun, you have one last chance. Are you sure you want to do this? Cause once we do, there's no going back and there's a chance we might be outlaws by the end of the night." I shot May a confident smile. "You bet I am, you and me all the way, plus ultra." May gave a little giggle at my choice of words. "Well, in that case, you can go first, soon to be hero." May tossed me the rope and without hesitation, I started to climb the wall. Once I got to the top, scaling down would be a different situation. Fortunately, May had a plan for that as well. Once she reached the top, she scooted right up next to me and wrapped her arms around me. Then she proceeded to throw us off the 25 feet tall wall. I tried my best not to scream as the wind whipped around our faces and my eyes began to water. As we were falling, the crazed young inventor threw an object, what looked to be some sort of pink baseball, at the ground. Once it had made an impact, it expanded into a giant pink cushion, which broke our fall. "Wow Izuku, you sure are comfy to land on." "JJ, just get off before somebody sees us," I stuttered out, feeling the blood rushing to my head in embarrassment. The cushion started to deflate back into its original ball shape immediately after we scrambled off of it, and while I was beginning to feel the impact from the fall, May looked as if she felt fine. We made our way over to one of the sides of a building. The brilliant inventor once again proved her mettle by bringing out what seemed to be a regular laser pointer, but one that she had modified to be able to cut through glass. Once inside, we began to make our way to where the kinetic battery was being stored, trying our best to avoid cameras and the occasional night guard. It felt almost disgustingly easy as we maneuvered our way through the building successfully, never really encountering a serious obstacle blocking our path, until we nearly reached our destination when we came across a reinforced steel door halting our progress. I was eagerly awaiting May to show off another one of her ingenious babies. They were becoming as interesting as quirks were to me. The young inventor walked to what looked like some sort of access panel and reached in her bag. If I was sitting down, I would be on the edge of my seat. To my surprise, May had taken out a wrench and smashed the panel open, revealing its internal wiring. She started pulling cords, allowing the door to open. I guess brute force is one way of getting in, I thought to myself. Having finally made our way in, we looked around the lab, searching for our object of choice. We also found all kinds of gadgets and gizmos scattered around the lab, probably designed for the recently enrolled students of UA. After a good while of searching, we had found exactly what we needed, and May went to retrieve the device and slowly replaced it with some random CD. Looking back, I'm not sure if she was being clever or just silly, but it didn't matter, because our chance of celebration was cut short. Like clockwork, an alarm began blaring all throughout the building, revealing our presence to the school. I darted my eyes towards May, who just shrugged. I knew we were going to get caught, it was just a matter of when. I started to panic a bit as our only means of exit opened up to reveal a single man dressed in all black save for what looks to be some sort of scarf. Dear God, how did you lowlives manage to get this far into the campus? The man questioned us, almost lazily, as if we'd just woken him up from some sort of nap. Now listen, I'm not really in the mood to get physical with you two, so I'll grant you both some mercy and let you go if you put everything back the way it was. His tone transitioned to one filled with sleepiness, to one that filled me with dread. I didn't know who this man was, all I knew is that the hard part was just beginning. The unnamed man started to approach us slowly, but I wasn't going to give him a chance to catch us. I scrambled around, looking for something to defend ourselves, grabbing whatever I could, thinking it would be useful in one way or another. One of the devices I took was some kind of green gauntlet that looked like a grenade. I put it on and took some vials that had the word samples written on the side of it. Stop grabbing shit that you don't know anything about, you might break it, our would-be attacker said nonchalantly, not really willing to change his slow pace towards us. I loaded one of the sample vials into the gauntlet and aimed the gauntlet at him, ordering him to back down, only for him to smirk a bit at me. I figured he wouldn't take my threat seriously, so out of pure desperation I pulled the pin located at the top of the gauntlet. What followed was a huge explosion that caught all three of us off guard, yet the assailant was able to dodge the attack despite being surprised by the force of the explosion. Taking this opening, I grabbed May's hand to make a run for it. We ran past the attacker and out the door, thinking we'd be home free until I felt something wrap around my leg. It was his scarf. He pulled hard, causing me to be swept off my foot and fall face first on the cold, hard ground. He dragged me towards him. May stopped in her tracks, worried about the situation I was now caught in. I was now tangled in his web. Still on the ground, he walked over to me and kneeled down on my stomach while putting one hand on the gauntlet, preventing me from using it, and his other hand on my throat. He looked at me straight in the eyes. They looked red, like blood, and they felt like they were staring right into my very soul. You know, I really was trying to be the nice guy here. I just got done filling out a mountain of paperwork for the new students coming in, and I'm just way too beat to deal with low lives like you two, he muttered and scanned his eyes over both of us. And what are you guys doing? You both look old enough to be one of my students. With nothing to lose, I tried to take a swing at the UA teacher. As expected, he simply swatted my arm away like it was nothing. Knock it off, I'm trying to give you idiots one last chance. Now return everything you took and leave, and that will be the end of it, he said. That's not an option, I responded as I struggled desperately against him, attempting my hardest to escape. Come on kid, don't bother trying to get up. I'm a teacher at UA. And a part-time pro hero. Do you really think you have a chance? I hope you don't think you're going to get out of this by trying to use your quirk, cause mine allows me to erase yours, he said while tightening his grip on me. His eyes started to glow a bright red, probably trying to use his quirk to erase my non-existent one. I couldn't help but smirk a bit at this. Well, you're in for a surprise. Batter up. May threw one of her cushioned baseballs at us. Her aim was directed at our attacker's face, only for his quick reflexes to go into effect, allowing his to catch the ball in his hand before it made impact with his face. He studied the device in confusion, trying to discover its purpose. I don't have one. Using this opening, I was able to use my free hand to smack his hand holding the ball, causing it to hit his face, and allowing the ball to trigger its cushion mode. The deploying force was enough to send us flying in the opposite direction, finally freeing me from his grip. That was a close one, Izuku. I stood back up, grabbing the cushioned baseball as it deflated, and ran with May down the hall to find an escape. Every door we tried was locked. Our means of freedom was running slim. Crap, I think we might be trapped. May frantically tried searching in her bag for one of her babies that might get us out of our current predicament, but she was buckling under the pressure, and losing her focus. I had to think of something quick or May was going to lose it completely. Searching the area, I found what I was looking for. A window, but as I expected it was locked, but that didn't matter. I raised the gauntlet to the last barrier of our salvation. Screw that, we'll just have to make our own exit then. I pulled the pin, blowing the window apart and revealing our exit. Nice job, Izuku, May said as she felt a sigh of relief finally wash over her. Our ordeal, however, was far from over because wherever there's a shining light, a shadow is sure to be there. I turned around to better hear the sounds of footsteps approaching us. It was our mystery attacker. He was able to recover from our surprise attack and he was downright furious. What the hell did you just do? How do you expect me to explain this to Principal Nezu? I threw some of the items that I had grabbed from the lab. The assailant put his guard up, trying to expect some sort of reaction from the unknown items. This gave May a chance to hop down out of our makeshift door. Just as I was about to make my exit, a knife struck the floor near my feet. What kind of teacher just carries a knife? I yelled. Shut up. I gave you plenty of times to end this nonsense. Now you're starting to really piss me off. I could feel the venom that laced those words. He was dead serious now. What exactly do you plan on accomplishing here tonight? Selling these tools made for and by students to big support corporations. Or maybe you're here trying to gain info about the new students being enrolled. Or maybe you're just a bit of idiot kids who can't stand heroes and what they stand for. Either way, I can't let you leave. You've done too much damage for me to simply let you walk away. Finishing his speech, he lunged at me. I readied the gauntlet and was ready to fire. The attacked figured I would do this as he used his scarf to grab the device and rip it off my arm. Now defenseless, I quickly rolled out of the way and scurried to the other side, thinking of a plan. As the UA teacher was doing his best to subdue me, I was looking at what I had on my person or at what I had thrown on the floor as a distraction. I finally had a plan of attack and was ready to act on it. I turned around to face my attacker and readied myself for whatever he was going to throw at me. I ran and leapt at him, trying to get a direct hit. Of course, he swatted my hand out of the way like I was nothing. I kept trying to hit him, but each hit was more or less just giving him a cool breeze. The UA teacher had finally reached his limit of dealing with me and found the opportunity to deliver a quick jab to my stomach, knocking the wind right out of me. Wincing from the pain, I looked up only to receive a strong backhand, causing me to spin around. His counter was not over, however, because before I knew it, he wrapped his arm around my neck, putting me in a hold. This stops now. Call your little girlfriend over here or the next thing you're going to experience is complete and utter darkness. He was dead serious. Every second I could feel the light fading as my struggles were in vain. Running out of options, I reached in my pockets and pulled out a yellow capsule and threw its contents into my attacker's eyes. The assailant gasped and quickly jumped back to avoid the white powder, and freeing me from his grasp. The assailant started putting in eye drops in case some loose particles fell in his eyes. Curious to what I has thrown, I read the label on the container. Sugar. What kind of hero needs sugar? Ignoring my own question, I ran to one of the objects I had thrown at the teacher prior. It was a glass jar that contained what looked like giant grapes. The side of the jar read "Caution, strong adhesive." With haste, I opened the jar and poured out the purple orbs around the teacher's feet, hoping they would attach. I wasn't done though. I ran to another one of the hero items. This next one was some sort of small speaker that wrapped around someone's wrist with a small microphone. The label on this one read "Danger, point speaker away from person." Sliding the speaker near the messy-haired teacher, he was finally able to look at me. You're wrong, by the way. There's nobody I respect more than heroes. It's my dream to be one. In fact, I am going to be one. You think stealing, breaking in, vandalizing private property, and assaulting a pro-hero is what's going to make you a hero? Then you're going to be in for a rude awakening, he spat back. I'll tell you what. I know that All Might is the symbol of peace that's keeping a large mass of villains from rising up and wreaking havoc everywhere. But I know for a fact that there are villains out there who like to hide in the shadow, hidden from the eyes of justice, who still terrorize innocent people. And for those people, it's too late for the police or even any hero to come to their rescue. So I'll make it my job to take them all out. And when I do, I promise that I will personally turn myself in and face any punishment that comes my way. With that, I had just made my proclamation and I had laid it out as clear as day. So let me get this straight, you're going to try to become some sort of vigilante, with no quirk and skills. You really are an idiot. A regular problem child. I couldn't help but snicker a bit before responding, probably. But I'm not broken yet. I told him with newfound confidence in myself. I flipped the switch on the speaker device and yelled as loud as I could into the microphone. The sound emanating from the device was way more powerful than I could have imagined. The actual building started to shake and the glass from the doors shattered to bits. The fellow UA teacher screamed in pain as he tried desperately in vain to escape from the torment but was unable to due to the adhesive grapes. Feeling like he'd had enough, I ceased my attack, ran over to the knife that he used to stop me from escaping and freed the grenade gauntlet, thinking it may still be useful, and made my way to catch up with May. There you are. I was seriously getting worried, May said, sounding like I had abandoned her. Sorry Hatsum, but I was unfortunately stopped by one of the teachers. May started to scan my being and noticed a freshly formed bruise on the side of my face and on my neck. I could see the worry in her eyes starting to form. Come on Hatsum, let's get out of here. After finally regaining some sort of focus, the pro hero wasted no time and removed his combat boots to continuing his task of capturing the two intruders. Although he was stumbling a bit, he had barely any problem rushing towards us with ninja-like speed. I turned around to see he still had the strength to capture us, and quickly put on the gauntlet and began firing it at random directions, hoping to deter him away from us. The strain from the gauntlet started to get to me. My arm grew weak and felt like it was being ripped apart by the shoulder. Firing the gauntlet had such a strong kickback. Using this regularly would require some serious strength, and I didn't know how much more of this I could take. May had obtained an extra grappling hook out of her bag. She threw it as hard as she could, and for a time it looked like our freedom was almost secure. That is until the hook was snatched by the hero's scarf. Enough of your games, he shouted, and with just his bandages alone he crushed the hook to scraps. Cursing under my breath, I turned to May, looking for a backup plan, but she was too stunned with fear to do anything. May's gaze would not leave our assaulter. I kept calling out her name, hoping to snap her out of it. Hatsum, Hatsum. It wasn't working. Without any options left, I dumped what explosive samples I had left into the gauntlet and hoped for the best. May. I grabbed her hand. This was finally enough to snap her out of her fear. I wrapped my free arm her and pointed the device to the ground. While all this was going on, I didn't bother paying attention to the hero charging at us. The only thing that mattered was trying to ease May into a better state of mind. Come on, you and me together, all the way, remember. Plus ultra, I reassured her as she pulled the pin. NOO. The raven-haired hero leapt at us to get one last attempt to bring us in. The last thing I saw was a giant blinding light as we were rocketed high into the sky. We did it, Izuku. May cheered. Not quite. The attacker went for broke and at the last second had used his scarf to wrap around the gauntlet. I tried to get the device off only to have the scarf crush the piece of armor down on my arm. Damn. I cursed as the pain of both using the device and its destruction while still being attached to my arm probably broke some of the bones in my hand. Using quick thinking, May was back to her old self and used the high-power laser to break through the device, freeing my arm and causing the attacker to descend into the trees. The explosion had propelled us a good distance away from the school. The next thing we had to worry about was the upcoming fall. I took out the cushion ball I saved from the fight and threw at the ground. I shifted our position so that May could land on top of me again to cushion her landing even more. Since the impact was greater than simply falling from a 25-foot wall, the cushion finally gave way and pop under the pressure. Thankfully, the only pain I felt was from my back, having May land on top of me. My hero, she joked, having found her old sense of humor. All right, I think we're finally in the clear. See, could you please get off me? May rolled off of me laughing. We both took a sigh of relief. So what did you think of my babies, Izuku? May giggled while looking to me for an answer. WLITH thought they were pretty cool, Hatsum. Your inventions are amazing and they really came in handy during our mission. May proceeded to get back on top of me. Her famous crosshair eyes looked like they were replaced with stars. Really? You thought my babies were cool? My face was full on red, seeing May so happy just by simply complimenting her babies. Why you bet, Hatsum. I can't wait to see what you make next. I bet the next one you make will be even cooler than the last. This caused May to give out a very happy squeal. She rolled back off me again all sprawled out, and I couldn't tell for certain. But I was pretty sure that I saw her blush, but I couldn't understand why she would. Well, Izuku, you can bet your butt I'll work nonstop to build your hero gadget. I felt the smile on my face wasn't enough to show the amount of immense gratitude I had for her. We continued to lie there for a while till I could muster the strength to get back up. So we stared at the stars for a while before May reached into her messenger bag to pull out the kinetic battery. It had a light green glow that pulsed and it was mesmerizing to look at. I promise you, Izuku, I will do whatever it takes to make you a hero, the golden-eyed inventor muttered. I turned to look at her as she stared at the battery, determined to make my dream a reality. She looked so anxious to start working on whatever invention she had planned. I turned my attention to look at my right arm that I had used to wield the grenade gauntlet. I could see large cuts everywhere, and could felt the broken bones in my hand. And to make matters even worse, my fingers looked deformed. It would most likely scar like this, giving me a permanent reminder of the choice I had made today. I held it close to me, covering it with my other hand, wincing at the pain. Do I really have what it takes to be a hero? Even with May's help, do I really have what it takes to be as great as someone like All Might? I closed my eyes and thought to myself as all my doubts and fears came crawling back to me. Izuku. My eyes shot open to look at May, who gave me a caring and sincere look with those golden eyes. Her voice was so soft as she told me, "You will become a hero." They were the words I longed to hear from anyone. My heart felt so light as this girl that had just come into my life out of nowhere told me what I had wanted to hear since that day I found out I was quirkless. They were the word not even my own mother had the heart to tell me. My eyes started to water. I couldn't even find the words to say to her. "You really think so, huh?" I finally said, looking away while trying my best to not break down and start crying in front of her. "I know so. You've already saved my bacon plenty of times. You really have what it takes to be an amazing hero, Izuku." We lied there in silence for the remainder of our time together, thinking of the future we were going to carve out together. Over the course of a few days, the news of our break-in was plastered all over the news, although a lot of it was filled with inaccuracies. Some newspapers reported that the break-in was done by a group of highly trained thieves, while another insisted that it was the work of a sole individual with a very powerful quirk. Guess none of them could actually believe that two teenagers with no actual plan could even manage to break into UA. I had also found out the name of the UA teacher, Shota Aizawa, also known as the pro-hero Eraserhead. I couldn't really believe it when I first found out. The thought of me going toe-to-toe with someone as strong as Aizawa made the blood drain from my face out of fear. He could have actually killed us if he had actually put in more of an effort to stop us. Shaking off the feeling of certain death, I remembered today was the day my mother was finally discharged from the hospital today. She insisted on coming back home after hearing that I had made a trip to the hospital myself to fix my arm from the break-in. So in the meantime, I had to get the home spick and span clean. Unfortunately, before my day could actually begin, someone began to knock on the front door. I wasn't expecting anyone today. I thought out loud as I approached the door cautiously, fearing the worst. Could it be that the police found me out? Maybe Aizawa found out who I was. I didn't really make an effort to hide my identity. Or maybe some of Spinal Tap's friends came to try to get revenge for their fallen leader. A million thoughts raced through my head until a familiar voice broke my train of thought on the other side of the door. Izuku, stop muttering to yourself. I can hear you on the other side of the door. Now could you please help me with these boxes? They're getting to be pretty heavy. The voice sounded very weak and almost lifeless, but I definitely recognized it. I ran to open the door and found Mei standing there with the box in her arms. She had massive bags under her eyes like she hadn't slept in days, and her face, and most of her body was covered in grease and oil. To put in simply, she was a complete wreck. Hatsum, what happened? Did you burn down your apartment by accident? I asked frantically, knowing that she had a well-known reputation for blowing things up. What and no, I got kicked out, she nervously responded. I looked at her dumbfounded and could only muster out a, what? Yay. Guess my landlord wasn't a huge fan of me blowing stuff up in my house either. She scratched the back of her head, unsure of what else to say. Okay, that answers that question, but why do you look like a mess? You seriously look like you haven't even slept in days. Huh. Oh, that's 'cause I haven't. The inventor stated bluntly, like it was a perfectly normal thing to do. Well, would you like to come inside then? I offered. Gladly. Oh, and could you help me with the rest of my stuff? She said, casually strolling into my house. Huh. Other stuff. I peeked my head outside to see a huge stack of boxes in the hallway. Holy cow, that's a lot of stuff. I exclaimed as I began to lift one of boxes, which itself proved to be a struggle, as each box felt like it weighed a ton. What the heck do you keep in these things? It's all stuff that I use to make my babies. You know, hammers, wrenches, blowtorches, failed babies, the usual. What you're trying to say is that all this could be I'll blow up in my hands. Yay. If you're not careful, she said, shuffling her way towards me to conserve energy as she still was carrying one of the boxes in her arms. Oh, and oops, May's goggles slid on her face, causing her to adjust them using both hands, dropping the box instantly on top onto my feet. The pain was immense. It felt like a shock wave rolling all over my body. I looked down to see my foot smashed by the Megaton box. Oh, sorry, Izuku. Mei attempted to bend over to pick up the box only to headbutt my face due to her goggles. I'm just a big klutz today, huh? At this point, I just wanted the pain to stop and I was willing to do anything to make it happen. Ha Hatsum, why don't you just go clean up while I put these boxes away in the meantime? I offered her, my voice still shaking with pain. Are you sure, Izuku? I am a little messy, but I don't think it's fair to let you do all the work. It's fine, Hatsum, I got this. Go ahead, you're exhausted. And with that she left to go wash up while I carefully put the boxes away in an organized fashion. It took a while. In fact, a whole hour passed before I was finally able to clear the hallway of all of Mei's stuff. Standing back, I admired my work. They were all stacked so neatly. Wow, way to go, Izuku. I didn't think you'd be able to get all of them moved so quickly. I turned around to face Mei only for all of my blood to rush to my head. There she was standing in the hallway wearing one of my All Might t-shirts, and what looks like one of my cargo shorts as well. WHWHWH, what are you doing? Are those my CC clothes? My tongue felt like it transformed into a sponge. Oh sorry, I didn't really have a change of clothes ready, so I hope you don't mind. Mei seemed to be trying to find the right words to say. I guess she also was nervous about the current situation. I hastily turned around to avoid looking at Mei directly, so my face could cool down. It's alright, Hatsum, I guess it's to be expected. Right now we gotta figure out what to do with our current situation. As much as I like your company, I don't think my mother would be okay with you building stuff in here. I turned around to look at Mei, who was still standing there. What about your folks? Mei began to fidget slightly from the question before answering. We aren't really on the best of terms right now. Guess they didn't like the whole me blowing up things every few hours kind of thing. That was kind of surprising to hear that her folks just decided to let her go off on her own like that. I couldn't even imagine my own mother doing something similar. Well, don't worry, I'm sure we can figure something out, I said, trying to get her back to her usual cheerful self. She was only able to nod her head in agreement, trying to make her way over to me only for her to stumble and almost collapse, although I was able to catch her in time. Hatsum, are you okay? Sorry. I guess that's what happens when you don't sleep for 4 days straight. Mei let out a meek little laugh, trying to retain some sort of smile before a loud growling noise took over. The golden-eyed inventor's face looked like she could die from embarrassment. And I guess not eating also doesn't help. How are you still alive? Was my first thought. Oh, okay, why don't you go ahead and rest for a bit while I go get something to eat? My knees were shaking as I was trying my best not to drop her. Mei looked up to me with a face flushed red, trying to find the words to ask me, "Cece, could you carry me to your bed? I can barely move." Without a second thought or hesitation, I did what she asked. I wasn't sure why I did it. Maybe it was because she was working really hard for me, or maybe it was because I felt bad knowing how she lives. Once I made sure she was comfortable, I made my way outside to the nearest convenience store to get her something to eat. I guess out of my need to make sure that Mei was okay, I've ignored the fact that I had a girl in my house, wearing one of my shirts, in my bed. Needless to say, that sudden realization had finally hit me as I ran down the stairs. At least I could explain easily to the store clerk why I had a bloody nose. In my absent minutes after I had left, a bus had come by and the only passenger to get off was my very own mother. Izuku is going to be so surprised to see his mother home so early, she said to herself as she strode into the building and up the stairs. My mother had a smile that was as bright as the sun, eagerly awaiting my reaction, as each step she took was closer and closer to giving her son a heartwarming surprise. Finally approaching her home, she unlocked a door, swung it wide open, and with joy in her heart announced, "Izuku kun I'm home." Sadly, she didn't get the reaction she was hoping for since, as I wasn't home to respond back. Where is he? She must have thought. Glancing over apartment, she noticed that it was cleaner than she had left it that fateful evening, almost as if none of it had ever happened. The only oddity in sight was a large cardboard box placed in the middle of their dining table. Switching shoes, she approached the seemingly normal box. What's in this? Opening the box unfortunately opened more questions, as its context revealed a small assortment of machines parts. She decided to not think much of it, thinking it could be something her son was picking up as a hobby. Acting on her motherly instinct, she decided to put the box away. In my room, humming gleefully to herself, she tried to think of other ways to surprise me with her unexpected return. Unprepared for what was next, she had entered my room and her soul had exited her body to find not me on the bed, but Hatsum. WHWHWA. Completely at a loss for words, she dropped the box out of pure shock, causing Mei to wake up from the noise, still drowsy from exhaustion. Izuku, are you back so soon? Did you get the food? Mei rubbed her eyes, trying to see who had just approached her. You're not Izuku. Who are you? Who am I? I should be asking you that. Who are you and what are you doing in my son's bed? CCC, could you possibly be his girlfriend? When did Izuku get a girlfriend? Why didn't Hedasai total me? Ishimbur said of his own mother. At this point, my mother completely ignored me as she tried her best trying to break down the current situation as she broke down herself, caught up in muttering to herself. Mother, well, I guess that explains the muttering. Mei said to herself, trying her best to not laugh at my mom's expense. My mom shot a glare at Mei as she composed herself, grabbing both of her hands. Sorry about that, guess. I just wasn't prepared for all this to come at me at once. Please, why don't I make us some tea and onigiri while you tell me how you and Izuku met? Mei was surprised at her sudden change in tone, but couldn't help but smile as she agreed to her offer. That sounds lovely, ma'am. An hour had passed before I finally was able to make my way home, running at top speed, but careful enough not to drop the catsuit I had brought for Mei. And I was too focused on my task at heart that I hadn't noticed that I was being followed. I finally made my way home, but before opening the door, I felt that there was some presence standing right behind me. So how's that arm of yours, hero? I turned around, recognizing that gravelly voice. It was Aizawa standing there in the walkway. My hands and legs were trembling. How did you end up finding me? I'm a pro hero, kid. It's my job. Plus you sure didn't make it hard to track you down. Now let's go inside to talk. I'm sure you have people waiting for you. Aizawa approached me slowly as I remained still, frozen with fear. Wait, no, why are you here? Are you here to try to arrest me? Surprising, no, he said as he looked down at me. I stared back into his bloodshot eyes, trying to figure out what he was planning. Then what are you doing here? I wanted to know if you were serious about what you said, about wanting to become a hero. I was still confused, thinking about why he would bother asking me this, but I didn't have much of a choice but to answer him. Why, yes, I was. There's nothing that I would like more than to become a hero. It's what I've wanted ever since I saw All Might save a huge group of people. Aizawa looked away from me to stare into nothingness. Of course you did. You're more of an idiot than I thought. He looked back at me with a cold look in his eyes. A kid like you with no skills, no quirk, and definitely no brains wants to be a hero like All Might. It's impossible. Those words stung. It felt like I was having that conversation with All Might again. But this time I wasn't going to let them sink me down back into that darkness again. But maybe, with a spirit like yours, maybe you can. What are you trying to say? Really, I'm not entirely sure why I have such an interest in you. Maybe those loud explosions really did a number on me. In reality, a person like you has no hope of becoming a hero, but there's something special about you that makes it feel like none of that matters. So what I'm asking here is, let me train you, Aizawa said, looking back to me. He still had that same cold look, but there was something different about this one. If that was possible. But why? Look, kid, do you want the offer or not? Aizawa mumbled out, beginning to look a little annoyed. Yes, please, there would be nothing I would like more. I told him, bowing to him as deep as I could while trying my absolute best not to cry. It didn't work. Geez, kid, relax. Knock off all the waterworks before I regret my decision. Sorry. I yelping, quickly trying to wipe the tears out of my eyes. Aizawa started to walk away after hearing my answer. Wait. Thank you, Aizawa, for having faith in me. I promise that I won't let you down. And I meant what I said. After all this is done, I'll turn myself in. I told him, still bowing to him. He never responded, only kept looking at me before walking away. After he had left, I felt some new sense of hope filling my soul. I opened the door to my home, ready to give Mei her first meal in days. Hello, I'm back, Hatsum. I called out, expecting her to come out of the hallway from my room. But to my surprise, she was sitting on the couch with someone. Izuku-kun, welcome home, Mei said excitingly. Holy crap, a girl is welcoming me home, I thought happily to myself. Ha, Hatsum, I didn't know what you like, so I just got you some katsudon, I told her, shaking the convenience store bowl out of pure nervousness. I looked over at who Mei was talking to, trying to figure out who it was till they sprinted up to me. It was my mother, and she was filled with tears just by the pure sight of me. Izuku, Mom. She ran to give me a hug, and I couldn't help but also shed a tear at having my mother come home. What a welcoming surprise. I thought that you want me to pick you later. Well, I wanted to surprise you, plus if I didn't come home early I never would have had such a good time with young Hatsum. She's such a nice lady, she exclaimed, fondly looking over at Mei before shooting me a look with fire in her eyes. Which brings me to my next question. Why didn't you tell your mother that you got a girlfriend? Are you embarrassed of me? I promise I wouldn't have done anything to mess things up, she would have kept going on and on as tears had begun to form in her eyes. I tried to explain the situation as best I could, and after a short while my mother made us dinner, thinking that Mei deserved more than a simple store-bought katsudon. During dinner she started sharing stories to Mei about me when I was a younger, and how cute she thought I was growing up. Oh, Izuku looks so cute in his little All Might costume. Mei could. Right about now I began wishing Aizawa had arrested me. It sure beats dying from embarrassment. At this point I excused myself and retreated to the balcony to get some fresh air, and away from my shame. The sunset has caused the sky to transform into a calming array of colors, and the nice, warm, spring breeze was so relaxing. I couldn't believe all that had happened to me over the past several days. Not too long ago my whole world had come crashing down, and now everything seems like a dream come true. It was all hard to take in. I almost felt like it wasn't real. I heard the door open up behind me and turned to see Mei walking over to join me on the balcony, a box in hand and seemingly back to her normal self. Hey Izuku, I wanted to thank you for such a nice day. Your mother is such a nice person. I can see where you get it from, she said. Thank you, Hatsum. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. Oh, what's that you got there? I pointed at the box in her hands. Oh, this? Well, I was hoping to show you when I got it all done, but everything went haywire today. And as a thank you for a nice meal, I decided to give you a sneak peek. She opened the box, showing a white glove that looked like it could cover most of my arm, along with an unusual-looking breathing mask that looked like it covered my mouth and nose. What is this stuff, Hatsum? I questioned. It's part of the suit I'm building. For you, Izuku. Here, put on the mask. She handed me the mask, and as instructed I wrapped the thing around my head. Once it was in place, the mask proceeded to tighten around my face until it became impossible to remove. How is it, Izuku? Does it fit all right? She asked, waiting for me to praise her babies. I nodded. This is amazing, Hatsum. My voice came out deeper than usual, which caught me a little off guard. Mei took the opportunity to proceed to explain everything she could remember about the mask to me. I thought it was a good idea to include a voice changer in it, to make you sound tougher to the enemy. I mean, I like how you normally sound, but let's be honest, you're not really the most threatening guy. I didn't know if that was a compliment or an insult. But wait, there's more. She was really enjoying this. She came right up to me, putting her hands on my face and putting my heart beat on full tilt. She then pushed a button on the side of the mask and a visor popped up, covering the rest of my face. Everything was dark for a second before the visor activated, making everything temporarily viewed in night vision mode, before reverting to normal vision mode. But the only thing I saw was Mei's golden eyes that shined so beautifully in the sunlight. I was lucky that she couldn't see me blush. She started naming off the different features the mask also provided until the sun finally went down. We then went inside before Mei asked, Izuku, I still don't have a name for your suit, so I was wondering if you would like the honor. I thought long and hard about it, until I had the only name that made sense to me. Deku. I'll call it Deku. The following day started off as normal as it could, only with the added guest of Mei staying with us till she could find a new place. Mom was okay with it as long as I didn't try any funny business. To be honest, I wasn't entirely sure what she had meant. My mom began preparing breakfast for the three of us, while May was busy working on whatever baby she was currently tinkering with. And myself, currently rising from my new, temporary sleeping arrangement, the couch. To this day I can't recall what dream I was having, but I was told that I screamed, "I am here," before rolling off the sofa and hitting my head on the coffee table. Needless to say, my day was not heading off to a good start. "Izuku, are you alright?" May said, hurrying to my rescue. Plus ultra was the only thing I could muster into a coherent sentence. "Yay, he's okay," May called out to my mother before prompting me back up onto the couch, while my mom retrieved a bag of frozen gyoza to place on my forehead. "Thanks," I said, getting up from the sofa and walking towards the dining table, only to stub my toe on the dreaded coffee table. Pain throbbed on both ends of my body, but I just grimaced through it, not wanting to let out any grunts of pain and alarm my mother. "Oh man, today just isn't your day, Izuku," May had stated out loud to me while turning around and getting back to work on one of her babies. "What else could go wrong?" I asked, now hopping over to the dinner table. A sudden gust of wind blasted everything off the table, dousing me in miso soup and sticky rice. I looked over at the source, annoyed to see May holding up the bottom of a boot aimed at me. Sorry. It's alright, Hatsum. I wasn't that hungry anyways." I grabbed a handful of paper towels and began cleaning the food off of me, but was quickly interrupted by a hard knock at the door. "What is it now?" I thought, wondering if it was possible for anything else to go disastrously wrong today. Mom, being as polite as always, went to answer the door, thinking it might have been someone of importance, and she wasn't disappointed. She opened the door to reveal Aizawa standing there with his piercing eyes meeting my mother's timid ones. "Gigi, good morning. How can I help you, sir?" She greeted him, still trying to sound courteous, even with Aizawa's intimidating demeanor. Aizawa pulled down his scarf, showing off the rest of his face. "Good morning, ma'am. My name is Shota Aizawa. I was wondering if you could tell me if your son, Izuku Midoriya, was available." Aizawa asked in a perfect gentlemanly tone, a complete change in character from earlier, and even finished with a bow. "Oh, of course he is. Please, come on in," and with that my mom had let the UA teacher enter. Aizawa even thanked my mother in a respectful manner. "Izuku, somebody's here to see you." May and I looked up to see who our surprise guest was, and May instantly dropped what she was doing, too petrified to move. She hadn't gotten over what Aizawa had done to me in our altercation the night of the break-in. "Midoriya-san, do you mind coming with me for a bit? We don't have much time," Aizawa said, still keeping up his civil personality. I simply nodded and made my way over to him just before being stopped by May, who had ran to grab my wrist. She pulled me close to whisper in my ear, "What are you doing? Don't you remember that this is the man who broke your arm and gave you a black eye? Not to mention he's probably leading you to a trap to arrest us." May tried explaining to me, hoping for me to see reason. I turned back to her and gave her a simple smile. "Sorry, Hatsum, I probably should have told you this yesterday, but he actually found me yesterday as I was coming home and he's offered to train me." "What? Why didn't you bother to tell me sooner, Izuku? I thought we were a team." "I'm sorry, Hatsum, I meant to tell you earlier, but I didn't know how you'd react. I don't trust this guy, plus I was planning on testing the suit out today," May told me, still holding her grumpy face, hoping I would change my mind. Sorry, Hatsum, how about we do it later today? I promise." With that I ran over to Aizawa, who was still standing there, waiting for me to leave with him. "Are you two done? Because I would like to get this done with before school starts. Now let's go." He addressed me with his usual tone as I ran to change into something more fitting for what Aizawa had planned. Mom went up to Aizawa trying to inquire his interest in me. "Excuse me, Aizawa-san, but do you mind telling me what exactly you need my son for?" "Oh, of course. Your son has graciously offered to be my assistant, as I try to juggle my work as a teacher. But he's so young. Are you sure Izuku can help?" I returned to the room dressed in casual attire to have Aizawa bore his menacing eyes at me. "I'm positive. In fact, it was Midoriya-san who insisted that he'd help me with my hero work. He told me that he was willing to do whatever he could to help me and that failure wasn't a possibility with him." Aizawa's gaze was locked onto me the entire time, as he lied to my mom. My mother has always been a gullible person, and after hearing those words from a teacher and pro-hero, she accepted it as solid truth. With no more distractions, we left Mom and a peeved May at home as I followed the UA teacher outside. As we exited the complex, I took in our surroundings. The sky was clear and the sun was warming me, a soft wind was gently ruffling my hair, and cherry blossoms fell gracefully to the ground around us. This was it, I was finally going to start my training. "So Aizawa-sensei, what exactly did you need me?" "Shut up, worm, you're about to enter a new world of hurt." Fear had rushed up behind me and gripped my throat. Aizawa had thrown what looked like normal bracelets at me. "Now put them on and don't forget your legs." Afraid of what the consequences may be if didn't comply with the Quark Eraser's demands, I hastily put on the bands. The moment one of them was placed around my wrist, the band made me drop to the ground. I was lucky my arm didn't rip off due to gravity. I managed to put all of the weight bracelets despite the extreme difficulty. "Now here's the deal, Midoriya. Every day for 5 weeks straight you're going to put on these weights and finish the training regimen I've laid out for you, or else I'll increase the workload on you." Wait, seriously, these things are heavy enough already. I made a point by demonstrating how difficult it was for me to even raise my arms to my chest. Well, you don't have to do this, you can give up and take them off whenever you want. But if you do, I'm arresting both you and that girlfriend of yours. I knew Aizawa would make good on his promise. Wait, that isn't fair, you can't arrest Hatsum too, because of my failures. It was all my idea and I was the one that caused all that damage. I tried pleading with him for some sort of leeway. No, this is where you show me if you are truly serious, Midoriya. Because when you put yourself on the line as a hero, you're not just putting your own life on the line, but your loved ones as well. Aizawa watched the cherry blossom petals as they fell from a nearby tree. Most of new students that attend UA claim that they want to become heroes so they can help people, but in reality it's mostly two reasons: fame and fortune. They think it's all glamour and thrills, they forget what truly matters, and when that reality hits them they shrivel under the pressures of what they sign up for. And it worries me students show up claiming they want to help people and the ones they love, only to abandon them at the last minute. A lot of them don't understand what it is to truly become a hero. Aizawa turned back to look at me, trying my best to handle the weight of these cursed bracelets. So if you're done wanting to give up, let's move on. Aizawa started to break down the training regimen he had made for me. On paper it seemed like a basic workout program, only cranked up to 11. One of the workouts was 20 basic push-ups, but because of the added weight, simply doing one was like trying to do one on Jupiter. Aizawa kept pushing me to break my limit, and after a while my arms felt so numb that a simple breeze could knock them off. By the time I finished the push-ups I was feeling like my body could break down at any second, but this was only the beginning. Aizawa told me the next step would be a 10K run. This man is truly insane. Halfway through the run I asked Aizawa if we could take a small break, but he adamantly shot that down. My stomach started to gurgle and groan, and I remembered that I didn't even get an opportunity to eat breakfast this morning, due to Mei's shenanigans. My legs felt like they were on fire as I frantically tried to keep up the pace. Aizawa, on the other hand, had no problems matching my speed. It felt like he was almost mocking me with the way he was running, looking half asleep and as if he was forcing himself to stay awake, and that it was my struggles that were boring him to sleep in the first place. Not long after my cardio catastrophe was over, I fell to the ground gasping for air, but Aizawa wasn't in a merciful mood and proceeded to drop a medicine ball right on my stomach. Sit-ups, let's go, he ordered as I reluctantly followed his orders, internally begging that this torture would end soon. Every rep felt more painful than the last. I was being pushed to my limit. It felt like my will was being eroded to dust. But, despite that, I couldn't give up, not with so much on the line. I had to stop thinking of this as pain. I needed to start thinking of every push as being one more obstacle out of my way, every step an inch closer to the top, and every rep a notch to get better. Filled with newfound determination, I gave everything I could. After I finished I walked up to Aizawa and dropped the ball in front of him, staring him down with conviction. Alright, we're done for today, now let's go. There's one more place I need to take you to. What more did this man want from me? At this point, prison almost sounded better than whatever he had planned. We walked down the street. Thankfully it was at a nice relaxing pace, enough to catch my breath. The sunlight on my face felt so relaxing. I was enjoying the nice warm glow as it enveloped me. Until Izuku. We both looked over to see who called for me. To our surprise it was Mei running towards us, dragging some sort of briefcase with her. I'd been looking for you for hours. Where have you been? I thought you'd be done by now. Don't you remember we've got babies to test? She hounded me while passing me the briefcase. Well, more like she threw it to me. Sorry Hatsum, but we're almost done. I promise. And when we finish I promise I'll come and we'll test out every baby you've got lined up. Maybe it was extreme exhaustion that caused me to open my big fat mouth, because I instantly regretted saying that. Oh, you bet you're going to test everything out. It had almost sounded like she threatened me while pinching my cheeks in a taunting manner. Somebody save me. She let go of me and took a step back, and the silence between the three of us became unbearable. You could cut the tension with knife. Mei was still distrusting of Aizawa and was giving him an evil stare. Aizawa on the other hand treated her animosity like most things in life. Not caring. So what's the deal, Mr. Pro Hero? What's with the sudden of change of heart? Afraid that we'll tell people that two teenagers managed to get the drop on a famous pro hero like you? Mei asked, pretty snobbily, and while I didn't agree with her tone, I still found it odd that someone like Aizawa was willing to turn his back on the situation, and go as far as to make me his personal student. You know, you're pretty ungrateful for someone who'd just gotten a second chance of freedom. Aizawa turned to face Mei. All the fear that Mei had once felt due to Aizawa had been replaced with animosity, as they both exchanged icy stares. I don't have to explain myself to someone who was expelled for nearly blowing up half the school due to their ignorance, Aizawa coldly told her. You jerk. Mei brought out the shock glove and turned it onto the max setting. Aizawa's hair stood up along with his scarf, showing that he wasn't going to hesitate to take down Mei. I quickly stepped in between the two of them to try and defuse the standoff before things could end badly. Come on guys, let's just all calm down before someone does something they'll regret. I put my hands in between them, hoping that they wouldn't be willing to cut me down to get to the other. Aizawa's hair fell back into place along with his scarf, and he simply just walked away without a glance back. I didn't think it would actually work. I faced Mei, who still had a bitter look on her face, unwilling to let Aizawa's words go. I've never seen her so angry before, her fist clenched inside the glove. Mei unleashed her anger on a random streetlight in one swift punch, causing the pole to warp at the impact. The street light bulb inside had also popped, most likely due to the electricity emitting from the glove and overloading the streetlight. Holy crap, I thought. Mei looked over to me, finally calming down a bit. Sorry Izuku, guess I kinda got carried away a bit, huh? Mei tried to brush off her heat of the moment outburst. I looked over at the damage Mei had caused. Carried away, huh? I tried to wave it off to her as a non-issue, hoping to avoid any further complication. Let's go already, before I change my mind. Aizawa looked back to yell at us. We went to go catch up with him, much to Mei's dismay. So Aizawa-sensei, are we getting close? I questioned after a bit of walking, hoping that the tension between the two of them would finally end soon. I looked around at our surroundings. It seemed like all the people were gone. In fact, there was nobody else around. Aizawa never did answer my question, so we continued walking onward until, at last, Aizawa came to a stop. Our mysterious destination turned out to be just a regular-looking storage building. At least, that's what it looked like until you entered the building. The inside was a completely different story. The whole place was a complete wreck. It looked like a basic loft, but the whole place was a trash fire. What exactly are we doing here, sensei? I asked, trying to piece together the puzzle. Since I've agreed to help you out, I figured we needed a place for you to hone your skills, and since I can't take you to UA, I figured this would be the perfect place for you. Yay, but this place, it looks like it's falling apart. Mei drifted away from our conversation and went to fiddle with some kind of circuit breaker. I don't care, that's your job. To fix this place up, Aizawa said, smirking at me. The circuit board Mei was tinkering with gave out a small spark with a little puff of smoke. We all look up to see the lights turning on, showing the rest of the layout and just how much of a mess it actually was. You got it, Aizawa-sensei. I reluctantly agreed to his unfair task. I glanced over to see Mei fiddling with whatever she could get her hands on. But Aizawa-sensei, could I ask for a favor? Would it be possible for Hatsum to set up shop here, to help me out as my support? Do what you want, just don't let her burn the place to ashes, Aizawa answered in his usual uncaring manner as he exited the building. Ready to give the news to Mei, I picked my way through the debris to where she had situated herself. Hatsum, I've got some good news for you. Mei turned to face me, goggles down and somehow already covered in grease. Huh, she answered. I couldn't help but smile. We had just arrived at our new hangout, and Mei had already found a way to make herself feel at home. Aizawa said we would use this place to train and practice my skills. I asked if you could also use this space to make your babies, and if you want you can even crash here so you don't have to sleep over at my place anymore. Mei's expression did not turn out the way I expected it to. Yo, you're kicking me out. She seemed like she was getting ready to cry. Wait and no th, that's not what I meant. I began to talk quicker to keep Mei from shedding any tears. I just thought that maybe you'd want somewhere bigger to work at, you know. Fine, but I'm still coming over cause your mom is a mean cook. I couldn't help but laugh at her response. My stomach growled thinking about my mother's cooking. Hey, alright fine, come on let's head back home then. Oh no you don't. Mei tossed the briefcase back to me with full force. You promised to help me test out these babies and that's what you're going to do. I groaned knowing there was more work to be done. Boo, but Hatsu. Butts are for sitting, not for excuse making. I slumped my head knowing that there would be no rest coming for me anytime in the near future. After doing some quick cleanup, Mei hastily crafted a makeshift workbench, in case any last-minute adjustments needed to be made. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, prepare to be amazed by the incredible handcrafted babies made by yours truly. Who are you talking to? Shush, you're messing up my future presentation. And now demonstrating my astounding babies is my adorable assistant, Izuku Midoriya. Mei jumped to the other side of the room pretending to be some sort of crowd, clapping and cheering. She was having way too much fun with this. I looked down at my feet to see what contraption she had put me in. It looked like the boots she was fiddling with earlier this morning. Now Izuku, what you currently have on your feet are my modified glide boots. Instead of allowing you to hover, I've designed them to allow you to take giant leaps into the air as much as 15 feet. Now all you have to do is tap your toes inside the boots and a large gust of air will propel you up in the air. Are you sure about this? Definitely, and don't worry about landing. The boots are padded to absorb any impact. At least it should, or else your knees are going to turn to dust. That wasn't quite reassuring, but I guess I didn't really have a choice in the matter. After swallowing my fear and biting my tongue, I pressed the small buttons on the boots to launch me into the air. Which did happen, but instead of propelling me upward, they rocketed me backwards, and I hit the wall behind me at full force. I don't think this was supposed to happen. Was it? I mumbled in pain. Mei ran over to me and hunched down to my level. Izuku, are you okay? Why yay, I think I'll live. Good, cause we are far from done. Now that she knew I hadn't sustained any serious injuries, she ripped the boots off of me and went straight to fixing the issue, leaving me to wallow in my pain. Oh. What are you doing still lying on the ground for? Come on, we got more babies to look at. May yanked me off the ground to take me to the next instrument of my demise. Next up was the infamous shock gloves. Felt pretty cool being on the opposite end of these things. Now Izuku, you maybe be familiar with these bad boys. Well, I've added some new features to these suckers to give them an extra oomph. I inspected the gloves, trying to guess what the changes could be. If you could just flick your wrist, Izuku, you'll see our first surprise. Doing so made a small little ball pop out. It was probably no bigger than a billiard ball. It was also attached to a strong piece of fiber that I could use to swing this thing around. This little sucker is called the Thunderball and will make for a great weapon against the everyday scum you see. She ran over to set up a few dummy targets around us. They were poorly drawn, but vaguely resemble Aizawa. Give them a good wallop, Izuku. Got it. The glove started to emit small sparks of lightning around itself, making it ready to electrocute anything that gets in its way. I threw the Thunderball as hard as I could, smashing through one of the Aizawa targets. Whoa, that was awesome. Did you see that, May? I was too distracted at my achievement that I failed to notice the Thunderball returning to me. It smacked right into my face, knocking me to the floor, and for an added bonus, shocking me as well, because why not? Oh dang, maybe I should make the return a little bit better. You think? I said, ripping the glove off my arm. I got off the floor to dust myself off and spat a little blood out. Okay, what's next? I regretfully asked, but May just beamed at me, knowing I was willing to go all out. We spent the rest of the day going over every invention May had developed for the Deku suit, some of them multiple times. We hoped that each tinkering would be what finally make it all worth it. Sadly, it all ended in failures. May was starting to lose hope and was ready to give up altogether. May dropped to the floor in defeat, looking at the boots, wondering where she could have gone wrong. Izuku, it's hopeless. I think you came to the wrong inventor. Maybe they were right at UA. To expel me. Nothing I do seems to work. It hurt to see her like this. What are you talking about, Hatsum? You're an amazing inventor. Look at all these cool things that you've made. I could have never have thought of anything like this, not even in my wildest imagination. Ha, you're just saying that. No, I'm serious. I mean, just look at this thing. Sure, these boots aren't functioning properly yet, but I'm positive if we look at it together we can get it. May finally was willing to give it another shot. I reached out my hand to her and pulled her up to get ready for round 2. During the middle of our second trial run, we heard knocking coming from the loft door. Nobody knew where we were, only the two of us and Aizawa. Opening the door, I discovered it was my mom, with her always present worried face and holding 2 bags in her arms. Oh Izuku, I'm so glad I finally found you. I was beginning to worry about you. I haven't seen you since this morning. Why didn't you call to let me know you were still helping out Aizawa-san? Mom, how did you find us? I had to find out where you were. Speaking of which, where is he and why aren't you with him at the school? I was at a loss of words on how to respond to her. I was never really a big fan of lying to my mother about anything, and I had been doing that too often lately. Thankfully, I didn't have to add another lie to the list, as May called out, inquiring as to who was at the door. That was just enough to distract my mom from further questioning me. Mom peeked around me to see May standing there still inspecting the boot and hurried past me to get to May. Hatsum, I hope you're hungry because I made you 2 some dinner. Mom laid everything out so neatly for us to enjoy. Oh man, I was so hungry that I was willing to eat the chopsticks at this point. This looks amazing, Mom. I can't wait. I haven't eaten anything at all today since Hatsum blew my breakfast away with one of her inventions. I was ready to devour everything in my sight. Fate truly is a cruel mistress. May grabbed my arm with such a force I think she left a bruise. I looked over at her to see a spark in her eyes, like she had just discovered the meaning of the universe itself. What's the matter, Hatsum? I whimpered, just wanting to enjoy my first meal of the day. Izuku, I think I figured out what's wrong with the boots. May yanked me back over to the workstation, ditching my mom and my heavenly food. May pulled out a flathead screwdriver to pry open the boots, revealing that both of them smelled like miso soup inside. They must have somehow leaked into the boots sometime this morning. Thank you, Izuku. May gave me a huge hug. My heart was racing a million miles an hour. My hands were trembling, not knowing what to do. I had forgotten about that incident this morning, and thanks to you reminding me, I think I figured out what's causing the boots to function incorrectly. Luckily, this should be a super easy fix. May went right to work replacing the parts that got coated in the miso soup. True to her word, May had replaced all the damaged parts in record time, proving that she is an amazing inventor. Without any hesitation, I put the boots on, gave May a smile, knowing that this time it will work. I pressed the buttons in the boot that allowed me to lift off. May closed her eyes in suspense and I braced for impact. And it worked. The boots propelled me high in the air that I could touch the ceiling lights. I looked down to see my mom, amazed to see one of May's babies in action. But what really made me happy was seeing May smiling, knowing that what she had made with her own 2 hands finally worked. I didn't really care that they worked, to be honest. I was just happy to see May smile again. Today was a pretty good day. No, Hatsum, absolutely not. It's not happening. I shouted hopelessly, trying to stand my ground against the pink-haired menace. Oh come on Izuku, why not? It's the perfect place to give the Deku suit a proper field test. May had finally finished development of the Deku suit and it was ready to be taken out for a spin. But first she wanted to make sure it was given one last test run before sending me out into the field. The only problem is that she wanted to test the suit at the USJ training facility located at, where else, but on UA campus, because the last time we went to UA, we broke in and gave the place a huge hole and probably thousands of dollars in damages. That's like ancient history. I'm sure they've forgotten all about it by now. Mei tried to wave it off like it didn't just happen a couple weeks ago. Plus, won't your super amazing sensei help us out? Hatsum, Aizawa said I'm not supposed to be seen with him, so I'm assuming that includes going over to UA and using their facilities. So, no Hatsum, and that's final, I said, finally asserting myself and telling Mei no, and it worked. For a good solid 8 seconds. The next thing I knew, Mei and I were on a train headed for UA. We tried to look as inconspicuous as possible so we wouldn't draw any unwanted attention. Mei's idea was to disguise ourselves as an underground indie band en route to a gig, which would justify us lugging around heavy equipment. Due to my initial refusal to go along with the plan, Mei decided that I would be assigned the role of the drummer, and would be tasked with transporting our equipment. Lucky me. I don't know how I let you talk me into these kinds of things. Now don't be a sourpuss, Izuku. This is going to be exciting. We're finally going to see the Deku suit in action. With all the bells and whistles in place, there was no denying that Mei was ecstatic about testing out what she had claimed to be her greatest baby ever. But I, on the other hand, wasn't as confident in my abilities. I began to mentally review all the training I had completed under Aizawa. I could feel my nerves ramping up, but I just had to get myself to believe that I could do this. I was so lost into my thoughts, I hadn't noticed that I was muttering them out loud, freaking out everybody in the car. Sorry, he's just nervous about this really big gig we've got going on today, Mei tried to explain to the morning commuters in the crowd. Hey, ease up, Izuku, you're freaking people out. Oh sorry, you heard that. Dude, the whole car basically heard you. Thankfully you were mumbling so fast nobody could make out what exactly you were saying. Sorry, guess I was overthinking stuff. Hey, don't sweat it, you're going to be amazing, Izuku. Mei said, all fired up, holding out her hands in a V pose. Hee, yeah. A few stops later we had arrived in front of the UA campus in all its glory. I was surprised to find that the hole that I had made during our escape had already been patched up. It was like we were never there to begin with. All right, Mei, we're here. What's your big plan to get us inside? Watch this, Mei said confidently before casually strolling up to the front archway. Before she could pass through, large gates dropped down, instantly barring our access in. That was your big plan, just walk right in. Well, I was sure it was going to work. What are you talking about? I asked her, astounded. Didn't you hear? The other day UA security went down, allowing for a boatload of press to just stamp the place. I didn't think they'd have the whole place fixed already. Our argument was interrupted when we heard an unintelligible booming voice coming from above us. We looked up to see a small little camera that had appeared where the school logo was placed on top of the gate. It extended itself to meet us both at eye level. Excuse me, I questioned looking straight at the camera. Stand still for a temporary photo ID. I was barely able to catch the words this time and quickly stood at attention to have my picture taken. Geez, Izuku, do you always look like you're being held at gunpoint when you take a photo? Mei walked by giving out a giggle at my stance. The camera then turned its attention on Mei, who quickly went to cover her face. Mesh briest don't cover her face. The camera blared out at her. I'm sorry, I don't speak Gurglenese. Could you please fix this stupid thing so at least I can understand you? Mei snapped at the device, hitting it with her bare hand. I asked the questions, miss. The voice said, sounding more human and understandable, but still loud as ever. Mei was still not deterred. You know, just because you have a loud bass in those speakers of yours doesn't mean it's intimidating. Let's see what you really sound like. Mei reached into her back pocket and retrieved a screwdriver she carried around with her, and then proceeded to snatch the camera and began tweaking with it. Hai Chuen Wafsup for FN few you doing? Stop that. Mei was able to manually revert the audio setting so that the person on the other end of the camera's voice came to us in their normal tone with no alterations. I swear if you don't explain your business here I will be forced to call in a hero from inside, and that would be bad news for you. The person on the other end sounded like they couldn't even intimidate a butterfly. His voice constantly cracked like a teenager that couldn't reach puberty. Mei and I couldn't help but laugh as he kept trying to threaten us. Stop, he shouted, and we quickly stood at attention, still trying to our hardest to fight a smile, and burst out laughing again. Now tell me why you're here. The school guard squeaked, and Mei took a step forward and began to explain. Well, if you absolutely must know, my name is Mei. My fellow bandmate and myself are here to meet with Aizawa-sen about a gig. He wanted us to get his students all pumped for their arrival to UA. My eyes shot open and I tried to stop Mei from continuing to drag Aizawa into our scheme. She quickly slammed her hand over my mouth. When she removed her hand from my mouth, I discovered she had actually slapped tape over my mouth to keep me quiet. And I came to a very fast understanding that this was not your regular roll of tape. This was some kind of Hatsum enhanced tape that wasn't coming off that easily. I don't buy it. What do you mean? She asked, feigning clueless. Well, first, I don't think Aizawa would hire a band for his class. Second of all, this kid doesn't even look like he could play the drums. And lastly, that is the stupidest excuse I have ever heard in my entire life. The school guard finished shooting down May's cover story. I gave a sigh of relief knowing that May couldn't go any further with her schemes, but she quickly proved me just how wrong I could be. How very wrong. May quickly reached into my pockets and grabbed my phone and quickly scrolled to Aizawa's contact information. My heart sank as I quickly tried to pry the phone from the hands of that bubblegum menace, but she quickly countered me by tripping me. Well, if that's how you're going to be, then I guess you don't mind if I called Aizawa and inform him that some little nobody is keeping him from his self-esteem team. Don't worry though, I'll pray for you. After all, I wouldn't want to wish Aizawa's wrath on anybody. I mean, have you seen those bloodshot eyes of his? They're clearly the eyes of a killer. The audio coming from the camera was dead silent and we both tensely waited for a response. What was going on there? Did this guy seriously fear Aizawa that much? I tugged at the tape, but before I could make any progress I heard the sound of a phone ringing. I look at May with a horrified expression. She actually went ahead and dialed up Aizawa. Hey there Aizawa-san, it's me. Sorry to say that your little cheer team isn't going to make it today because some mean guard refuses to let me in. Yes, I told him that you requested us. No, he still refuses to let me in. May put her hand on the phone and looked at the camera. Oh boy, is he really steamed. I wouldn't want to be you when he reaches your office and strangles you. Here, do you want to talk to him? May angled the phone at the camera and it recoiled out of fear. And no that's fine. Hold on. Please Lola, let me go get him and try to explain. Wait here. With that the camera retracted all the way back into the logo position in the center of the arch. With our watchdog temporarily gone, May quickly threw my phone back at me and ran up to one of the arches and found what seems to be a central panel. Hello. Izuku, is that you? The voice on the other end of the phone was the sound of my slightly worried mother. With a final tug I tore off the tape and quickly apologized for calling her, assuring her it was an accident. I told her that I loved her and needed to go, not giving her a chance to responding before ending the call. You didn't think I'd actually call that grumpy cat, did you? May called out to me, frantically rearranging the cables inside the control panel. Before I knew it the gate finally retracted, and we took the opportunity to rush into the school grounds. Aizawa was at his desk, shuffling his papers around in preparation for today's lesson. He thought of the batch of new students that would be arriving in his classroom shortly and was certain they were going to fall far below his expectations. Two of which were going to be an especially big handful, Shoto Todoroki and Katsuki Bekeigo. They both had incredible quirks. One was a recommendation through his father while the latter had high marks during the entrance exams. But it seemed they both liked to play the lone wolf crap. Bekeigo apparently wouldn't even lift up a finger to help one of his fellow classmates during the entrance exam. But it seems another student had come to her aid at the last moment. The quirk eraser buried his head in his hands, not ready to deal with the problems of today. Aizawa exited the teacher's office to go meet his students and begin the day. Aizawa-san. Aizawa rolled his eyes to look at the annoying school security guard that had appeared in front of him. What the hell do you want? Aizawa replied lazily to the man as he kept walking. Sir, I'm sorry about the incident with your cheer team. I didn't know that you personally asked for them. What the hell are you talking about? Didn't you ask for these two individuals? The squeaky guard flashed the two pictures taken of the uninvited guests at Aizawa. Damn it, what the hell are those idiots doing here? I'm going to kill them. Aizawa bit his lip thinking of how he was going to have to explain this. Yes I did. Would you kindly bring them inside and have them wait at my desk? Of course, Aizawa-san. The man left Aizawa with a pit in stomach as he began thinking of ways to explain this to people. Aizawa checked the time only to see he was going to be late to greet his students. He sighed and continued on his way to the classroom, when he ran into the bulky space suit of another teacher. Aizawa-san, are your students looking forward for their first trip to the USJ? Aizawa blinked at the space hero, confused on what they meant. He had his own plans for first lesson. I'm sorry 13, but what are you going on about? Your classroom is reserved for training at the USJ. Today. Didn't present Mike tell you. I gave him the memo to pass along to you. Aizawa gritted his teeth, cursing his childhood friend. Sorry, I guess I had forgotten. Well, that's okay. Go ahead and grab your students and we'll make our way straight there. The quirk eraser bit his tongue upon hearing more bad news. That sounds great, Aizawa lied, trying to hold back his anger while also thinking of a way to deal with Izuku and Mei's unexpected visit. Then an idea hit him. Hey, wouldn't it be a good idea if the students went with all might, instead of me? I'd like to catch up on some last-minute paperwork before getting started. He smiled, thinking he was able to slip by. That would be amazing, but unfortunately he hasn't come in yet. 13 responded, dashing Aizawa's hopes. You don't say. Aizawa trailed off. Bastard, thanks for the assist, symbol of peace. Alright then, I'll go get the students. Begrudgingly Aizawa left to gather his students and prepare them for the upcoming trials. Opening the door to the classroom, Aizawa was greeted by his students. Good morning SE and SEI. Aizawa stood in the doorframe, observing the students before addressing them. Good morning, class. Now, listen up. Today we'll be making a trip to the school's USJ, so gather your gear. A blonde-hair student raised his hand, already confused by the change of location. Aizawa approached his desk at the front of the class and quickly scanned through the class roster he had left for himself before responding to the student. What is it, Kaminari? Yeah, what's the USJ? Denki Kaminari asked, but before the teacher could answer, another student intervened. It was a raven-haired student by the name of Tenya Ida. Kaminari, please, couldn't you wait until we arrived at our destination to ask questions? The student continued to bark while moving his arms up and down in a sort of karate chop motion. What the hell, man, I just asked a question. Or is that not allowed? Denki snapped back. Another student intervened, hoping to defuse the situation. Ada-kun, you should calm down. Kaminari was just asking a simple question. It's all right. I am aware you're Raka-san, but Kaminari should really learn to wait until the end of the explanation. Hey, screw you, man. Denki responded, allowing himself to get riled up. Hey, Ada, where do you get off? Another student jumped in. Kyoka Jiro was trying to defend her fast-made friend. This ultimately developed into the whole classroom getting into a firestorm of insults, and snappy of the students, including Shoto Todoroki and Fumikage Takoyami, were staying quiet and keeping to themselves, simply observing the arguments. Aizawa covered his face in his hands, frustrated at the condition of his classroom. It seems they had gotten to know each other quite well this morning, but not necessarily for the best. You damn extras, just shut the hell up. You're all giving me a damn headache. The whole room went silent and looked over at the source of the outburst. It was Katsuki Bakugo. He glared at the whole classroom, trying to assert some type of dominance over the class. Oh, Bakugo, always such a nuisance. You think you're such a tough guy, don't you? Yelling at all of our classmates, thinking that you own the place, another blonde-haired student said smugly with a grin on his face and shaking his head mockingly at Bakugo. What the hell did you just say, you copycat freak? Bakugo's hand started to smoke as his anger flared. How about you and me go at it then? Then we'll see who's the tough guy, you talentless loser. Bakugo got up to face his challenger, his tone threatening, and he was just itching for a fight to prove himself. Anytime, hothead, the blonde responded, standing up to face Bakugo, his grin spreading even wider. Aizawa had had enough. He jumped in between the two students and used his capture device to wrap around both Bakugo's and the other student's head and slam them together. Bakugo, Monoma. Enough. Aizawa turned to face the other students, eyes glowing bright red, and if I hear another word from anybody else, you can say goodbye to UA. The whole room became deadly silent, afraid of the Quark Eraser's threat. May and I had somehow managed to sneak into another one of UA's facilities. The USJ was sectioned off into multiple different environmental zones, and we had currently hidden ourselves in a forested area that was located near a giant lake with an intact ship, and had what looked like a water slide. This place is too much, I thought to myself as May set up her equipment to monitor the Deku suit. All right, Izuku, I'm all set up. Go ahead and get started. I nodded in response and put on my mask that covered up my mouth, nose, and ears. I pressed the button located behind my head, causing my visor to pop up and cover my eyes. I looked down at my suit to look it over. In its current form, it was a little bulky, but May had plans to trim it down in the future. My glovers were white with black fingertips, and located on the back hand of the gloves was one thunderball on each hand. May had a weird sense of style. The majority of the suit was green with some black lines traced around my body. She also placed some extra padding on my shoulders. The suit was lined with some sort of mechanism that sent electrical impulses to stimulate my muscles to help keep me moving even after I felt tired. My booster boots were colored a bright red, and the only new addition May had made to them was that she made the toes and heels plated with iron for added damage to any enemies. All of this was powered by the kinetic battery, now encased in a thin, light plexiglass material to keep it safe, that was placed on my chest, directly above my heart. Once my visor was activated, my whole suit was powered on and covered my body in a light green hue. This is amazing, Hatsum. I can't believe you built all of this yourself. I hollered over at her, laughing in amazement. May blushed, scratching the back of her head while laughing at my compliment. I stared at the green battery that made all this possible, when curiosity hit me. So Hatsum, I never asked, but what makes kinetic batteries so special? I peered down at the glowing green light, and it was like a switch had flipped in her head as she jumped up right to my face, eyes twinkling. I'm so glad you asked, Izuku. The kinetic battery is the pioneer in our energy generation, as it doesn't require any sort of fuel other than your own movement. It can be any kind of movement, such as walking, throwing a punch, or even something as small as your own heartbeat. The battery is able to take those movements, amplify it, and convert it straight into power. The bigger the movement, the more energy you create. For now, I have sensors placed over your heart, so the only thing that the battery is going to use as movement will be your heartbeat, which is plenty for test driving the suit. May finished her explanation with an accomplished smirk on her face. Wow, Hatsum, you sure do know a lot about it. Of course I do, after all. I read the manual. There was something about the way May said that sounded questionable to me for some reason. Now enough small talk, take our baby out for a spin. I nodded at her request and ran off to try to push the suit to its limits. I used my boots to soar through the forest, jumping from branch to branch. I landed on the ground and chose a random tree to launch a thunderball at. It wrapped around the tree tightly and emitted a strong jolt of energy that burnt the tree. I yanked on the wire attached to the ball, which cut through the now charred tree, effectively cutting it in two. This is awesome, I screamed in excitement. I'm glad you're having fun, Deku. I looked around to try to find where Mei's voice was coming from. Hatsum. Nuo, it's a ghost speaking to you directly from your ear. Just joking, it's your #1 inventor, coming to you live from a crappy, little portable base of operations I put together farther back in the woods. I put this little baby in your mask so we could communicate while you're doing your hero thing. I even have a little camera so I can see what you see. That's cool, Hatsum. Yay, I figure that you want some sort of support while you're playing the cool guy. Well, if that's the case, then you're gonna need a hero name too. It doesn't feel right just calling you Hatsum, I joked, causing Mei to give out a little giggle. Oh yay, what did you have in mind, Deku? It was different hearing her call me Deku. It wasn't like hearing it from Kakin, when the meaning felt like an insult that struck me to my core. But hearing it from Mei made it sound encouraging. On that evening Mei and I had spoken on the balcony. She had later asked me why I chose the name Deku, since it sounded like a negative name for a hero to have. I explained to her that Deku didn't always have such a negative feeling towards it. Growing up, the only friend I had was Katsuki Bekugo, and when I first found out I was quirkless, he gave me the nickname Deku. He explained to me that name sounded like the saying, "You can do it." It was his way of telling me to never give up hope of being a hero. But eventually I did lose hope. Until I met Mei. Mei brought that hope back again, and that's why the suit's namesake had to be Deku, as a reminder to never lose hope again. Mei had smiled and told me that was the sweetest story she had ever heard. I didn't have the heart to tell her that over time Bekugo had become power-hungry with his newly discovered quirk and turned into a ruthless bully. He ended our friendship after I defended one of his victims and from then on used the name Deku as an insult to me. I didn't want her to disapprove of the name because I had been bullied with it. But now that I had my name picked out, it was time to decide on hers. How about Gidget? I suggested. Gidget. Yay, it's like a cute way of saying gadget. My body froze, realizing what I had just said to Mei. Giving Mei a cute nickname, why had I said that? Her continued silence didn't help the situation. Mei, I stuttered out to her. Oh my god, Deku, that's adorable, I love it. Mei yipped, my heart suddenly beating furiously against my chest. Holy crap, she liked it. I thought. Oh Deku, your heartbeat is going nuts, is everything okay? She asked me, confused. Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. I panicked. Yay, must be something wrong with the suit. I tried to deflect. If you say so, Deku, Mei chimed out, pretending to buy my lie. I continued to test out the suit, kicking over trees and breaking boulders with one swift punch. I felt like a child, doing things that I could never do growing up, since I was cursed with being born quirkless. On Mei's end, she was analyzing my suit's various functions, including heartbeat, temperature, and physical damage I would have sustained. One of the information tabs that Mei was especially keeping an eye on was titled, Excess Energy Buildup. Alright, it's keeping at a steady 25%. That's perfect, as long as he doesn't do anything completely excessive, there shouldn't be a problem. After a while I started to get exhausted and I felt like I did a good run of the suit. Alright Gidget, I think we've done enough. I'm going to head back. Roger Dodger. Everything was running smoothly on my end. I think this was a success, the pink-haired inventor Happy stated. As I was making my way back to Mei, my visor started to flash red indicating danger. Deku, watch out. Mei yelled. I quickly rolled out of the way, narrowly avoiding a foreign object that had almost hit me. It seemed like some sort of circular saw. Well, what do we have here? A menacing voice asked. I turned my attention to the direction the voice spoke from, and saw someone emerging from the trees. Someone who didn't seem like they would be employed at UA. And here I thought we were the only uninvited guests. Well, I don't know who you are, but I can't take any chances on you, so I'm going to have to get rid of you. Sorry, nothing personal. The mystery man said to me. Wait, uninvited guest. Did he break in as well? And what did he mean by we? I was trying to make sense of this new situation when Mei's voice snapped me back to reality. Deku, what are you doing? Stop overthinking and get your head in the game. He's getting ready to strike again. Mei was right, the random thug raised his arm at me, presumably getting ready to use his quirk. From his wrist he fired multiple circular saws toward me. I quickly rolled away from them, successfully dodging each projectile, while also trying to close the gap between us. I had maneuvered my way in front of my attacker. What the? He exclaimed startled, trying to aim his wrist to get a clear shot of my face. I quickly swatted his arm away and in an almost fluid motion, jabbed him straight in the throat. Not even giving him a chance to recover, I stuck him several times in his ribs, ending it with a knee strike in his face which knocked him out instantly. I took a few steps back, peering down at my hands as they trembled. I couldn't believe how effective Aizawa's training had been. I felt like I was a completely different person than when I had fought Spinal Tap. The Izuku Midoriya that couldn't defend his own mother was long gone. I felt like could take on the world now. Whoa, nice job, Deku, May said, breaking me from my trance. Thanks, Gidget. This guy said he had friends accompanying him. I think we might have an issue, I said, struggling to keep my composure. I needed to be prepared for any circumstance that was about to happen. I'm heading back to get you out of here, then I'm going to find a way to alert Aizawa about what's going on. I told May my plan, trying to get some feedback, but there was no response. Gidget. Still radio silence from the other end. My heart sank, fearing the worst. I started to have flashbacks of my bloodstained mother nearly dying in my arms. No, not again. I'm not letting this happen again. I needed to jet me way to May's location as quickly as I could. Aizawa escorted the, now silent, one class to the front of the USJ building. They had all changed into their hero outfits that were individually designed for each student, taking in the abilities they possessed as well as personal preference. The students waited anxiously, eager to learn what this little field trip was about. Their patience was finally awarded as the rescue hero, 13, arrived and welcomed them. Greetings, little heroes and heroines. Welcome to the USJ, also known as the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. Everyone owed and awed in response. Here we train students, like yourselves, to prepare for all emergency situation types. The students were led into the building to observe the building in all its glory. They were amazed at the size of each emergency zone and the various different environments featured. Wow, this is amazing, a student named Mina Ashido exclaimed. Not only was the girl sporting pink hair, but her complexion was pink as well. Yay, this school is really something to have all this cool stuff for us to work with, another student named Hantasiro chimed in. The boy had a mostly normal appearance, except for his elbows were in the shape of tape dispensers. Yes, take a moment to take it all in. 13 turned around to look at the students and pulled out a piece of paper. All right, students, now if we could all just simmer down, we can get to business. Before 13 could explain the upcoming lesson, one of the students interrupted the hero. Excuse me, 13-sensei, but what is that? The boy who had interrupted the teacher was an extremely buff-looking student by the name of Rikido Sato. The students all looked in the direction he was pointing to see purple smoke coming from the center of the facility. The smoke column increased in size and soon multiple stacks of smoke could be seen throughout the facility. Everyone was mumbling in confusion, wondering if there was some sort of fire was going on. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Suddenly, a lone person emerged from the smoke and moments later a whole horde of people followed suit. Who are they? Aizawa-sensei, Tenya asked, confusedly wondering if this was part of their training. Aizawa's eyes widened, looking at the massive congregation of villains that had simply materialized in front of them. They're villains, quick, we all have to get out here, Aizawa quickly instructed the class, urging them to turn around and exit the building immediately. Their escape was cut off by the source of the purple smoke. This quirk user was staring down at the one of students with his glowing yellow eyes. I'm so sorry, little UA students, but I'm afraid I cannot allow you to leave. So if you could please just stay put and mingle with our associates while we eagerly await our guest of honor, the smoke man said, sounding polite but strangely intimidating. The last two people to reveal themselves from the smoke had finally come out. One was a boy with a light blue tint to his hair. He wore all black and had hands placed all over his arms and upper body, including his face. The second man was more of a creature than a man. He had black skin, a bird-like beak, and strangest of all, his brain was exposed at the top of his skull. The hand-covered man gave out a eerie smile that, despite being partially obscured by a hand, could set fear in even the bravest of hearts. I'm waiting for you, All Might. The whole of Class 1 looked on in fear as what had started out as an exciting lesson for the new students had devolved into a living nightmare. Students, stay where you are and this will be over soon, the man producing the purple mist spoke, letting his threat linger over the students. They were all stunned with dread as they looked down to see a horde of villains advancing upon them. Oh man, we're so screwed, Kaminari whimpered, as they all huddled together waiting for the inevitable attack from the approaching group. Aizawa quickly jumped in front of the students, ready to throw himself into the fray of villains that congregated ahead of them. 13, get the students out of here while I try to hold them off, Aizawa ordered. Right, come children, we must flee and get Aizawa-san some help. 13 tried to herd the classroom out of the facility, but were interrupted as the smoke man appeared before them, blocking their path to the exit. I told you, you aren't allowed to leave. The villain's haze started to expand and slowly rolled onward toward the students, ready to engulf them. Screw that, I'm not going down without a fight. Bakugo grew angry as he ran towards the mist man, screaming, Die. Hell yeah man, we're heroes in training, let's act like it. A redhead, named Eijiro Kirishima, shouted as he ran along with Bakugo to face the smoke man. They both lunged at the villain to strike him with all their might, only for him to disappear out of sight. What happened? Where did they go? Monoma yelled, fear filling his voice. They frantically looked around, only to see the mist closing in on them, finally about to engulf them all. Not so fast. 13 yelled and pointed upwards, the hero's finger opening to allow a huge vacuum to suck up the haze that had surrounded them. Impressive, so you're the hero with the black hole quirk. Let's see how long you can keep this up. but, oh my, it looks like you're missing something. The villain drew attention to the fact that some of the students had vanished from where they stood. Villain, what have you done to them? 13 cried out. Don't worry, your precious students are still here. They're just mingling with our friends by showing them around the facility. You monster, you're sending those students to their deaths. The smoke villain gave out a sinister laugh in response, hoping to rile up 13 and shake fear into the other one of students. I was dashing through the trees searching for our little makeshift base, hoping that I got to May before anybody else could. I finally made it back to see that the only occupants of our base were 3 random goons. My heart rate began increasing as I thought back to the night with Spinal Tap, beginning to fear the worst. I began to hyperventilate as the flashbacks kept replaying in my head, my heart beating faster and faster. I couldn't think clearly and all of a sudden I was seeing red. I had to act against these guys. Deku, can you hear me? It's me, your favorite inventor. A wave of relief had washed over me knowing that May was safe and hearing her familiar voice again. My head began to quickly clear and I sighed, grateful that I had been snapped out of that state before I carried out any unnecessary acts of aggression on them. I honestly don't know what I would have done if May hadn't turned up when she did. Oh Gidget, thank goodness that you're all right. Yeah, they almost caught me, though thankfully I was able to avoid them before they could see me. Unfortunately we have a problem, Deku. What's that? That computer that's next to the goons contains all the info on the suit and the battery. We absolutely cannot let them see it or get a hold of it, May direly warned me while eyeing her workstation as the trio of villains circled the computer like sharks. What's the plan then? I asked, eyeing my prey from where we stood. I'm going to blow it up, she confidently told me with a sly smile. Wait, are you serious? Booyah, those baddies won't know what hit him. Now just wait on my signal, she instructed. They eyed the trio as they investigated the area. Finally one of the men noticed the computer and approached it, May brimming with anticipation. Hey, this might have some info on UA that we can sell for some cash, one of the thugs casually called out as he picked up the laptop with interest. May then sprang from the bushes, arms wide open, with her goggles on. Kaboom! She yelled, pressing a hidden button on the side of her goggles. All 3 men turned to ogle at her in stunned silence, and before they could even react, the laptop and the workstation started to glow and emit light before blowing up. The man holding the laptop was flung backwards into a tree, knocked out and likely sporting some injuries. One of the goons was busy picking himself up and trying to recover from the blast, while the third had been just outside the blast radius and had barely any effect from it. The third man made eye contact with May and rushed at her with an intent to kill. I rocketed myself at him with full force, colliding into him and encasing him in the dirt. The second thug was still having difficulty from the blast and stumbled away from the commotion, but I didn't give him a chance. I quickly threw a thunderball around his waist and yanked him closer to me to deliver a punch hard enough that it made him flip backwards, landing atop the second man. Dang Deku, you're really putting that hero suit to good work, May said, whistling at my newest accomplishment. Well, it helps when I have the best in support making it for me, I said, returning the praise. We walked over to the charred slag that was May's laptop. May felt crushed knowing that all her hard work converted into a pile of burnt plastic. Sorry we couldn't save your work, Hatsune, I told her, hoping it would give her some sort of comfort. May took a deep breath and let out a scream that could wake the dead. Well, that was a bust, but I guess the silver lining here is that remaking all those babies is going to be twice as fun knowing that I've got all these ideas I didn't have before. If May was anything, she was an optimist. I smiled, cheering her on. Yay, and I'll be there to help you every step of the way. May took a break from her self-motivational boost to see the kinetic battery had a brighter glow than it usually did. Oh no, not again, May whispered to herself. She immediately tried to rush over to me with the screwdriver in hand. Hey Izuku, let me just. May was cut off as we heard explosions coming from the distance. Hold on, Hatsune. I used the boots to soar as high as I could and then proceeded to use the zoom function on my visor to see where the commotion was coming from. The center of the facility was swarming with villains, and single-handedly trying to fend off the ruthless group was Aizawa-sensei. Hatsune, I have to go. Aizawa-sensei and his classroom are in danger. I need to help him somehow. May took a step back, she starting to look nervous and uneasy. No Izuku, you can't. We were not even supposed to be here, remember. You don't want to get in trouble with Aizawa, do you? May pointed out, trying to deter me from going to give my sensei the aid that he needed. That didn't stop you earlier today. Yay boo, but May took a big sigh, like she couldn't hide a secret anymore. Look Izuku. The battery has a fatal flaw in that it can't stop building up energy, and if it builds up too much, it might overload, causing it to explode in a large electric explosion. Izuku, if you go out there and help Aizawa, there's a chance that the suit might explode at any time. You'll die and take out anyone in a 5-meter radius around you. I gaped at her in shock for a moment before asking, isn't there anything you can do to stop it? I can try to expel any excess power, but the thing is, I don't know how to. The best bet is to go back to the loft and remove the battery till we can find a way to use it again, May said, not able to maintain eye contact with me. I tried to survey my options on what to do. I could go and help Aizawa and the other students from almost guaranteed death with the kinetic battery, and hope it didn't exceed maximum levels or try to help them another way, but without my suit, I could just end up putting them at greater risk. I closed my eyes and thought, no, this wasn't the time to overthink things. I opened my eyes and began running to Aizawa's location. Mei gave a startled cry and sprinted after me, trying to figure out what I was doing. Izuku, what are you doing? You can't. She begged me. Do you know how long I have before it overloads? I don't know, the last time I checked it was at 45%, but at the rate you're going it could be anywhere in between hours and just mere seconds. Please Izuku, I know that we were going for a test run, but I didn't think we'd actually be in a combat situation, Mei pleaded, all while trying to keep up with me. Well, hopefully I won't take that long. I tried to pick up the pace only for Mei to jump in front of me, blocking my path. Mei tilted her head down in guilt and didn't bother looking at me. Please don't go. I don't want you to die because of me. Mei sounded like she was trying to hold back tears. I looked over to see Aizawa, trying his best to take down every villain he could while protecting his students. He was slowly losing steam and I was wasting time arguing with Mei. I turned to her, who was still refusing to look at me. I'm sorry. I have to go, Hatsum. Plus, it's okay, Mei, we're heroes now. Death is an occupational hazard. I walked around her to go into possible certain death. Mei turned around to watch me depart towards Aizawa. She fell to her knees with tears falling down her cheeks. I've killed him. And it's all because I couldn't make the stupid battery work properly. She cried softly, under her breath. I ran as fast as I could, leaving Mei behind thinking that she should be safe as long as she kept hidden. I approached to the shore of the lake and figured I could save time if I cut straight across the lake to the other side. I took a few steps back to get a running start and ran as fast as my legs could take me. Once I reached the very edge of the shoreline, I used my boots to rocket me as far as I could. As I soared through the air, I aimed myself for the boat that was anchored in the middle. However, my luck would not allow it. As I came closer to the boat, I realized I had overshot it and would be instead landing in the water. As I braced myself for impact, someone leaped out of the water, a hybrid shark man who looked ready to tear my face off with those ragged teeth of his. I feared this would be the end until something sticky wrapped around my torso and pulled me in the direction of the boat. As my continuing luck would have, my rescuer slammed me onto the deck of the boat. Oh, I managed to get out. I was disoriented, but trying to search for where my savior was. I was able to discern two different blurs, a tall, green one and a short, purple one. Tsuyu, what are you doing? This guy could be one of the killers. The purple blur squeaked, running behind the green one, seemingly named Tsuyu. Relax, Minda, if we has one of them, he wouldn't have been attacked by the others. Ribbit. My vision finally came to focus and I saw the two voices, both of them likely UA, students in Aizawa's class. One of them was a young girl who has a similar appearance to that of a frog. This was likely her quirk. The short one standing beside her was a child dressed in purple. To be honest, I wasn't even sure this person was the same age as us. Alright then, if he's not a villain then, who is he? He doesn't look like one of the teachers, he looks about our age, and I doubt he's one of the students since I've never seen him before. So then who are you and how did you get here if you say you aren't a villain? Minda, the purple-clad student finished his interrogation, glaring at me with suspicion. I got up slowly, with my hands up, as to not give my newly made teammates a reason to attack me. My name is Deku, and honestly I can't tell you how I managed to get here. But please, you have to trust me when I say that I'm on your side. All I want to do is help you guys. Mina still looked like he didn't trust anything I said, while Tsuyu was at least willing to hear me out. And why should we trust you? You might just end up getting us killed. Meida exclaimed, still cowering behind Tsuyu. Because it's better than the alternative, waiting here for them to take you out. We're heroes, right? So why don't you take a leap of faith with me? I stretched my hand out, hoping for Minda to at least give me a chance. Tsuyu placed her hand on top of mine while Minda hesitantly followed. I'm willing to give you a shot, so any ideas on what to do, Deku? Ribbit. I went around the boat to see just how screwed we were. My initial count was at least 13 guys waiting for us in the water, and they all glowered at us with murder in their eyes. I turned around to see Tsuyu and Mita waiting for my answer. I tried to guess what their quirks were since I didn't want to risk having them ask what mine was, or rather, lack of one. Tsuyu looked like she had a mutation class quirk that gave her the abilities of a frog while Minta. I wasn't sure to be honest, until his hair reminded me of something. I quickly picked up Minta and stormed inside the boat with Tsuyu following quickly behind. What are you doing? Put me down. Quickly, what exactly does your quirk do? I said, breaking my earlier rule. My hair makes these little gooey orbs that sticks to everything. Now can you please let me go? I dropped Minda in front of some of the windows that line the downstairs area of the ship. Okay Minda, I have a plan that just might work. I need you to place your little spheres everywhere, and I do mean everywhere. How is that going to help? Trust me on this, it's gonna work. Or we'll die. I'm muttering that last bit out of earshot from the purple blunder. Hey Deku, what do you want me to do? Tsuyu asked. We climbed the staircase back up to see the villains still floating in the water, waiting for us to make a move. I scanned the area around us, making note of all the tools and miscellaneous objects lying about. Yeah, actually, I need you to throw all of this random stuff at the villains. Suyu shot me a quick, puzzled glance, wondering what exactly that was going to accomplish. Won't that just make them angry? Ribbit. Yes, that's the point, I cheerfully said, walking back inside the boat and away from the very confused Suyu. I went back inside to see Minda still placing as many orbs as he could around room. Going down one more small flight of stairs, I was now presumably inside the engine room. I quickly got to work looking for every flammable form of liquid I could find and dousing the engine, and the whole room. Once I was sure I drenched the area, I ran back upstairs to see Minda on his knees, exhausted from pulling out his hair. He also seemed to have slight bleeding from his head. Minda, are you alright? I rushed over to him, avoiding the orbs as best I could. Why yay. Sorry, it's just if I use my quirk too much, I start getting lightheaded and my head starts bleeding. I looked around to see that he had placed his orbs everywhere, on the floors, the walls, even on the ceiling. Minda had went all out. It's alright, we're almost done anyways. I'm about to call checkmate soon. I picked up Minda and walked back upstairs to join Suyu on the deck. Making my way up there, I saw Tsuyu lobbing heavy items at the villains, mostly making direct contact with them, and when they did, oh boy, they were not happy about it. I swear you brat, when I get over there, I'll rip your freaking head off, one of the villains screamed at the girl. I quickly went over to one of the lifeboats and hid Minda in there. I bent down to whisper what the rest of the plan would be. Well, we got them mad, now what? Ribbit. Suyu backed away from the edge, hoping that they wouldn't hold true to their promise. I approached the edge of the boat, putting my foot on the railing, and puffed up my chest and bellowed out, oh yeah, if you think you're so tough, why don't you come over here and show me what you got, fish face. The villains waiting in the water bristled at my taunt. Suyu pulled me away from the railing and gave me a dirty look. What do you think you're doing? Are you actually trying to get them to come over here and bite our heads off? Suyu angrily questioned me. Yes, that is the plan, and sadly, I don't think it's working the way I want it to. I walked back over to see them still in the same exact spot, but just fuming mad. Hey, you know what? You guys look familiar. Oh yay, I think I had something that looked like you guys for dinner last night. I continued pelting them with insults. They were looking more furious by second. I swear I could see the water around them trying to boil. I turned around to see Tsuyu, who was almost just as mad at the villains. I guess it's not working anyways. I turned my attention back to the villains to see that they has disappeared from sight. I frantically tried scanning the lake to see if I could find them anywhere. I was having no luck, and was about to ask Tsuyu if she had seen anything before the boat started to shake and the sound of metal being pierced filled our ears. We put our backs to each other in defensive positions, ready for anything that was coming our way. The boat continued to violently shake, and then it was silent. The only noise we heard was the water lapping against the side of the boat and the distant fighting the others were engaged in. Tsuyu quickly snapped her head in one direction to see one of the villains leap in the air. The man landed in between us and was about to take a swing at Tsuyu. I quickly grabbed the man's arm, about to make contact with Tsuyu, and spun him around to hit him with a powerful backhand before launching him back in the air. Tsuyu finished him off by jumping in the air and using her powerful frog legs to kick him inside the boat. Just then, pretty much every villain that had been lurking in the water earlier jumped onto the boat, surrounding us. There were too many for us to handle on our own. We were greatly outnumbered. There were simply too many villains to handle on our own. I grabbed Tsuyu's hand and dashed down the stairs to the lower levels of the ship, maneuvering around the purple orbs until we reached the opposite side of the room, trapped with nowhere to escape to. Well, looks like our prize is now trapped. Time to collect our meal, one of the villains hissed out at us. They were making their way down the stairs and into the room, moving slowly, trying to intimidate us. Now if you take back about that fish face crack, maybe I'll give you a quick, painless death. The same villain spoke again, cracking his knuckles at us. I stepped in front of Tsuyu, and even though they couldn't see it, I was smiling. This is the end of the line for you, scum. Give up now and turn yourselves in, and I won't have to hurt you guys. I tried pulling off my best heroic voice. In response, the villainous group all laughed at me, and Tsuyu gave me a weird look, almost like she regretted helping me out. What, you think you two are going to stop us? Yay, and all I need is this. I held up a steel marble that I held in my pocket. They continued to laugh at me. Do you know what you're doing? Ribbit. Why yeah, for the most part. To be honest, I've only done this once, and it didn't really work the way I wanted it to. I positioned the ball like I was getting ready to flick it. The shock glove started to go into overdrive as sparks arced around the steel marble. It started to feel super hot. The amount of power I was giving off was intense. The whole room started to light up in a green glow. The villain's laughter stopped and was replaced with looks of dread, suddenly worried about what exactly I was going to do. Shooting star. I yelled at the top of my lungs, flicking the marble. It catapulted through the air at high speed. All the villains quickly jumped out of the way as the ball pierced through the wall into the other room, leaving behind a loud thunk. I lowered my hands and the villains all looked over to me and continued to laugh. AHAHA, all that talk and you freaking missed. AHAHA. One of them managed to get out through loud bursts of laughter. Tsuyu gave me a worried look, clearly thinking this was going to be the end of it. No, I didn't miss. The villains, in their effort to dodge the marble, hadn't paid attention to the trajectory of the object. When I shot the marble, I had angled it downwards, so the room where the marble landed was actually the engine room. The marble was still filled with an electric charge. One of the sparks had jumped out and lit up the flammable chemicals that I had doused the room in, and in an instant the engine room exploded. A huge hole in the ship was created in that instant, allowing huge amounts of water to rush inside and flood the place. The force was so strong that the water pushed some of the villains up against the walls, and some even on the ceiling. As the ship started to sink, I shot one more marble up in the air, creating a hole of salvation for Tsuyu and myself. I turned toward her and requested she get us out of here. She obliged and picked me up with her tongue and swung me towards the deck of the ship. I was surprised by her strength, but once I landed I made my way to the lifeboat where Minta was waiting. As we were making our way to the lifeboat, the villains inside the sinking ship struggled in vain to escape, but were unable to, as they were all stuck thanks to Minta's helpful quirk. They all sank, along with the ship, to the bottom of the lake in their underwater prison. As we watched the boat sink, we all felt some sort of accomplishment knowing that we had what it takes to be true heroes. Hey Deku. Yeah, Minta. Thanks for saving us. I really couldn't have done it without you guys. We did it together. Both Minta and Tsuyu had smiles on their faces. We rode our way towards the center of the facility, where we were going to help Aizawa and the rest of the students. Whoa, did you guys see that? Kanamori pointed, quite forgetting the fact that he and fellow students, Gyro and Momo, were surrounded by a group of villains. They were currently trapped on mountainous terrain, their backs up against a cliffside. Yay, who do you think that was? Some pro hero or something? Gyro asked, fending off some villains with the pole that Momo had materialized with her quirk. Hey, can you guys focus here? I don't think things are looking good for us right now, Momo said, welding a steel shield. She was doing the best she could deflecting the many enemy attacks. Yeah. Suddenly I'm so pumped. Yaorazu, make me a weapon. I'm about to go ham on these baddies. Denki exclaimed, holding his arm towards Momo, expecting her to hand him a powerful weapon, worthy of the electric wielder. Instead, Momo threw her shield aggressively at Denki. Oh, what the? Just a shield. Yes, and that's all you're getting. I don't want to waste any more energy on my quirk other than what is absolutely necessary. Momo tried reasoning with Denki. Oh come on, you sure you couldn't make like a cool ninja sword or a powerful hammer? Or something? Denki whined. Will you stop complaining, you idiot? Can't you see that we're in the middle of a life or death situation? Gyro yelled. Well fine, then I guess I'll have to make do with it. With that Denki ran in the fray of villains, hoping to knock them out with a swing of his shield. You think he's going to be okay, Kyoka? Dead as a doorknob. Todoroki shifted his gaze over to the lake, focusing on the huge explosion that had been created. What is going on over there? With his attention elsewhere, he didn't notice that there was someone sneaking up on him. Stupid kid, you should pay more attention to your surroundings. A random thug yelled, about to strike Todoroki with a machete to the back of his head. He made a beeline straight for Todoroki, only to be frozen in place, literally. The villain's whole body started to shiver violently from feeling the intense cold his body was placed in, as he was now frozen solid due to Todoroki's quirk. Man, that's really pathetic that you have to sneak up on a kid because you're too scared of him. Now if you excuse me, I have to go see what I can do to help over there. With his newly caught victim frozen in place, Todoroki made his way towards the center of the arena, walking past other villains that he had encased in ice. I just hope I'm not too late, he said to himself, picking up speed. Man, it feels like there's just no end to these guys. Kirishima muttered, taking out a villain with a swift kick to face. What's the matter? Can't keep up. Bakugo growled out in banter, blasting villains away with ease. What? No, I'm just saying, you'd think they'd get tired of having their butts kicked by some high school students. Kirishima joked back. The fire-haired teen activated his quirk, hardening his arms to be as strong as steel and ran towards two assailants. He slid underneath them and swept them off their feet with his arms, letting them fall on the ground, and with one hard chop he stuck them in the back of their heads, sending them nighty-night. Kirishima rolled back up to shoot a smile at Bakugo. Ha, I bet I'll take out more guys than you, he challenged. One of Bakugo's eyes gave a slight twitch, his hands in fists, and he was about ready to declare how he would dominate that challenge. But just then a group of villains came running in from a nearby hallway. Hey, they're over here. Let's get him. They carelessly yelled out, not knowing what form of punishment they were about to receive. Dia. Bakugo raised his arms at the mob of foes and unleashed hellfire on them, blasting them in half the building that they were residing in. All that remained were flames and rubble that were created by the spiky-haired walking nuke. Bakugo turned his head slowly, eyes still filled with his unbridled fury, and looked at the redhead who now looked odd. You were saying? Bakugo called out. Alright dude, you win. Sheesh, Kirishima conceded, feeling incredibly outclassed. Hey, should we go and see if our classmates need our help? Kirishima questioned, hoping he could turn Bakugo's desire for destruction into a force of aid for their classmates. TCH, I'm sure they can handle themselves. Bakugo surveyed his new view of the facility, now able to clearly see into the center of the building. His destructive habit earned him a good look at the mysterious blue-haired man that had come in last and who was standing next to the hulking bird creature that acted as a bodyguard. That guy. He must be the boss, huh? Bakugo muttered to himself. Come on, Kirishima, we're going. Huh, where are we going? To end this, Tsuyu, Mainta and I finally arrived on the lake shore, briefly studying the battlefield to see who needed our help the most. Aizawa was still in the midst of heated combat, while a group of students were still hanging by the entrance, attempting to escape. Okay, here's the plan. You two go and help your fellow classmates up by the entranceway. What are you going to do? Tsuyu asked, helping Mainta off the lifeboat. I'm going to go help Aizawa and make sure he doesn't die. Fine, but don't get yourself killed. It would be a shame if our mystery hero just died so suddenly. Ribbit. And with that, I left my two temporary partners behind, hoping I'd get to see them again soon. With no more distractions, I was able to rush over to give Aizawa the aid he so desperately needed. Aizawa had managed to eliminate the small-time criminals with little effort, but even I could tell he was almost reaching his limit. I was proven right when one of the criminals was about to catch Aizawa off guard, but I wouldn't let that happen. Shooting star. I fired a marble right at the goon's ribs, sending him flying into other villains. I kept firing off shots at random at the villains surrounding Aizawa in an attempt to give him space and a chance to recuperate. Once the coast was clear, I let out a sigh of relief before I was suddenly yanked down by my foot and started being dragged over to Aizawa. I looked back. I didn't realize that I had had a close encounter with the hammer blow to the head. I scrambled onto my feet, crouching in a defensive position. Looking over at Aizawa, I wasn't sure if he is glad I was by his side, or annoyed. What the hell do you two think you're doing here? Well, at least I got my answer. You know, most people say thank you when someone rescues them. The Quark Eraser gave me a deadly glare. Thank you FF for saving me, Aizawa-sensei. The battle between 13 and the portal villain was still ongoing, with a group of students from Class 1 standing a safe distance away while still observing. 13 was trying their best to deter the purple demon from taking any more students away. We've got to find a way to get help. Uraraka looked around, thinking that there just had to be an opening somewhere, or a weakness that they previously missed. The class was getting anxious, feeling that they were just delaying the inevitable. What are we gonna do? 13 can't hold that thing off forever, Sato asked with a hint of panic in his voice, all while trying to work up the nerve to use his quirk to help the situation somehow. Nothing. There's nothing we can do, we're way out of our league here. Monoma whispered out his pessimistic view on the situation, hurting the morale of his fellow peers. This was just their first day. They were inexperienced students facing villains who could have been at this longer than the kids were even alive. They truly felt like they could die at any moment, and their luck was about to turn from bad to worse. The yellow-eyed portal villain seemed to feel he had toyed with 13 enough and opened a portal right next to 13. The portal started to rip the black hole hero away from their suit, chunks and pieces flying off them. Oh crap, this is it. Mina fell to her knees and grabbed her head, trying her best to hold herself together. The class gathered here began breaking down, some saying urgent prayers, but Uraraka noticed something. She wasn't entirely sure of it, but to be honest, not many options were left at this point. To try and save what little energy they had left, 13 stopped using their quirk, ending their suffering. Well, it was nice knowing you guys, I guess. Not really, to be honest, Monoma muttered, not able to take his eyes on the formless villain that towered over them. Uraraka walked over to Tenya, who was trying to find a way to escape, just like everyone else. She grabbed the teen by the face to make sure his only focus was her. Ada-kun, you're the only one who can help us. You have to go and get help. Uraraka, I can't just leave you all here. Yes, you can. Trust me, you'll still be the same hero that saved me from those robots. Tenya tried looking at the formless creature that blocked his path. Come on, you got this, Ida. Sito cheered on. Yeah, we'll help you any way we can, Mina encouraged, getting back up with a new sense of hope, knowing she could help her classmate in some way. Tenya clenched his fist before sprinting as fast as he possibly could with his engines running on high. The portal villain grew in size, trying to widen his net on the young engine quirk user. I am afraid I cannot allow you passage, young man. Tenya wasn't deterred. He wasn't going to let his fear get the best of him, not when the others needed his help. Come on, we have to help Ida-kun. Uraraka rallied the other students to help out. A student with short, silver hair named Mizo Shoji sprung into action. While the villain was too distracted with Tenya, Shoji started to grow multiple arms that were attached together. Shoji grabbed the villain with all his might, trying to give Tenya an opening. Go Ida, don't look back, Shoji called out. Tenya put his engines into overdrive, pushing his quirk beyond his limits. Come on. I have to go faster. I need to get help, they're depending on me. Tenya thought to himself, he could a few more steps before he passed the entranceway. The plan is over if he is able to call in pro-heroes. The villain burst out of Shoji's grasp and was about to summon another portal, but something else was stopping him. Uraraka. Ha, I knew I saw something. It's this weird armor holding you together. Uraraka used her quirk to throw the villain in the air. This gave enough time for Tenya to break through the doors and contact help. I knew you could do it, Ida-kun. Uraraka watched Tenya escape through the door that might bring them salvation. But before she could celebrate, she found herself surrounded by the purple mist. Such a brave young girl, let's see if your bravery is rewarded. With that, she was taken in by the mist. Back in the center of the fray, I was doing my best to keep up with Izawa and taking out some of the goons that surrounded us. We were doing fairly well, but we couldn't keep this up forever. It felt like there was no end to them. Every time we took one out, 2 more came back in their place. Where are they getting these guys? Never mind about that right now, just focus on your training, Izawa instructed me. I took a deep breath, took a fighting stance, and prepared myself for another fight. As I readied myself, Izawa noticed the battery on my chest was glowing with an alarming brightness. You want to tell me what that light show is all about? Well, let's just hope you don't have to find out, I mumbled out, continuing to dodge oncoming attacks. The area directly overhead us darkened momentarily. We looked up to see purple mist forming above us, and a young girl dressed in pink was dropped from it. The girl looked to be about my age and nearly landed on top of us. What's going on? Where am I? She questioned, slightly disoriented. I offered her my hand to lift her on her feet, only for her to fall right back down. It seemed she had sprained her ankle. Oh, son of a never before had I heard someone close to my age swear as much as Bakugo, but she came in at a close second. Hey, calm down, it doesn't look that bad. Izuku, get her out of here. But what about you, sensei? Don't worry about me, I'll be fine. Just get Uraraka out of here. Not wanting to continue to argue, I did what I was told and picked up Uraraka and jumped across the plaza and made a break for a clearing behind some rocks. I used the goons as platforms, jumping from one to the next until we reached safety. As this was happening, the leader of the villains watched me with interest take Uraraka to safety. And who might you be? The blue-haired youth grumbled as he scratched his neck violently. Namu, go and entertain our uninvited guest. The creature that had been idly standing by for the past hour had finally become active. It focused its beady, lifeless eyes on us, shifting around like a machine before having us dead in its sights. The creature moved so fast he was by our side in an instant. The only thing I saw was its massive fist about to collide into us. It hadn't made contact with us yet, but I could just tell how bad this was going to hurt. Death might even be inevitable, but the hit never came. Izawa had given the behemoth a swift kick to the head, stopping the creature from its attack. I braced myself for some sort of response from the creature, but it just stood there unfazed. What are you waiting for? Go. Izawa shouted his order at me, snapping me out of my stunned phase, and hurriedly obeyed. How very heroic of you, Shota Izawa. Since you're so eager, you can be the one who keeps my good friend Namu company till the main event arrives, the blue-haired leader chuckled. Lovely. After finding a good location, I set Uraraka down behind a couple of boulders that were well hidden from any villains that might be lurking about. I took a seat next to her, both in an attempt to catch my breath and to check up on her, as she was still nursing her leg. Uraraka, is it? How's that leg of yours feeling? Like I smashed it with a rock. I'm sorry to hear that, so what happened to you? I mean, you just plopped out from the sky. She gave me a blank look, like she should be the one asking the questions. Well, you see, I was at the entrance, helping one of my classmates escape and call for help, and I guess I managed to fall for one of the villain's traps. Did he make it out okay? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he made it out. He's got a quirk that makes him go super fast. Well, at least I know help is on the way. My next priority should be ensuring that none of the villains are able to escape. With my new resolve, I stood up and brushed myself off. Hey listen, I'm going to have to ask you to stay here please, I requested of Uraraka. Wait, where are you going? Are you just going to leave me here? I gotta go back and see if there's a way I can help Izawa. There's no way he can take that monster on his own. And that's the idea, but don't worry, I'm sure someone will come by to your rescue. Boom. A loud explosion was heard right next to us. I looked over to the source only to have someone's boot planted right on my face. The force of the kick was enough to send me reeling backwards. Crap, did another villain find us? I frantically thought to myself. I jumped up to get into a defensive stance. The dust had settled and I tried to get a good look at my attacker. Of all people, it had to be him. Damn, you're still up. Guess I'm going to have to put in an effort to take you down. Hachin stowed before me, having mistaken me for one of the intruders. I mean, he's technically not wrong. Hey, what the hell, Bakugo? You could have killed him. Uraraka shouted, trying to get up to stop him. But her injury made it difficult. That's the point, round face. Now shut your trap while I get rid of him. Whoa, hey listen, it's not what you think. I'm trying to help you. Kakin fired an explosion that I had to quickly roll out of the way to avoid, and in doing so, part of the suit caught on fire. I quickly tried to pat it out. Shut up, I'm not going to listen to your bullshit. Not willing to listen, he put his arms back to blast his way over to me, this time coming at me with a punch from above. I guess I didn't have a choice. Once Kachin extended his arm for the punch, I quickly grabbed his arm to flip him over and slammed him on the ground. Now stay down. I don't want to hurt you. I ordered him. Stupid idea. Go to hell. He jerked his hands right in front of my face, pulling the pin from those familiar gauntlets of his. I immediately recognized them and what was about to happen. I rolled out of the way to dodge incoming blast. It was way bigger than I remember it being. It made the ones I used on Izawa look like firecrackers in comparison. Kakin got back up to try and give me a point-blank shot to the head, while I dodged to the best of my ability. My ears were starting to ring badly. This had to stop. When he next came at me with another blast, I quickly blocked it and wrapped my arm around his, moved close to him and gave him a strong headbutt. He was slightly dazed from the unexpected blow and stumbled back. I took a few steps back as well, reaching into one of my pockets. I mean it, final warning, please stay down. Why can't you just die? He readied his other gauntlet, and the same moment he pulled the pin, I fired the marble that I had taken from my pocket. With luck on my side for once, the steel ball hit right at the barrel of the gauntlet. The resulting explosion destroyed the device and sent Kakin flying backwards into a tree. Kakin tried his best to get up, cradling his arm in pain. He was covered in cuts, burns, and blood, but still managed to get on his knees. I walked over to him slowly and stared him down. He stared right back with those red eyes filled with anger. "It's over," I muttered, and before he could have a chance to swear me out, I delivered a punch that left him knocked out. And just like that, I was standing over the unconscious body of the one who had spent years bullying me. One of the few reasons I had sunk into the darkness, and here he was, left blacked out by me. Me, the quirkless one. The one who he had told could never, ever have a shot at becoming a hero. I had defeated Kakin, who had boasted that he would become better than All Might himself. I should be happy that I conquered my childhood bully. Right. To be honest, I didn't feel that way at all. In fact, what I actually felt was sadness. Even through all of his bullying, even when he told me to outright kill myself, I never stopped thinking of him as my friend. I softly let out a chuckle at that thought. What kind of idiot would still let someone who told them to die be their friend? Guess that would be me. I placed the now knocked out atomic bomb over my shoulder and hauled him back to Uraraka, who hadn't given up on standing upright. Whoa, hey Uraraka, don't push yourself. I placed Kakin next to her and moved to assist Uraraka with her ankle. No, it's alright, I can't do this. She plopped back down. Here, let me help you out. Luckily for us, May had stocked the suit with basic medical supplies. Hey, do you mind if you could? I pointed to her boots, hoping that she could remove them cause there was no way my nervous dweeb self could. Oh sure, she replied, taking off her hero boots. I wasn't overly experienced with applying first aid, despite some of my recent injuries, but I began wrapping her ankle, knowing I had to try my best with someone so cute. I'm sorry about what happened with Deku, she pointed out to the blacked-out Molotov cocktail with the toilet mouth. Oh, that's alright, at least he tried to protect his classmates from some unknown guy. Speaking of unknown, I never got your name. Oh crap, I think I fell into some sort of trap. Oh, it's Deku. Is that your real name? It's the name you can call me. Who are you? You're not in our class and you're definitely not old enough to be a teacher. I'm just a local hero, who just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Right, then how come I've never heard of you? I'm just starting out. The pink hero was getting suspicious at my constant dodging. Could you at least take off the mask? Geez, this girl is persistent. You can't, I have problems with my eyes, wandering eyes and whatever. Can you at least tell me what is up with that green light? It's way too bright. Oh crap. I looked at the battery, feeling like I was running out of time. I hadn't noticed well in battle, but now that I was free from distractions, the heat it was giving off was so intense, like having a kiln strapped to my chest. At the same time in the distance we heard a loud booming noise and we could feel the vibrations it was giving off. Crap, Aizawa might be in big trouble. Look Uraraka, I have to go. I'm sorry, maybe we can meet up later, but for now I have helped someone. I bolted back to where I had left Aizawa as fast as I could. Uraraka put her hero boots back on and did her best to get back up. What a weird guy. Yooo. Uraraka. Somebody was calling for her from a distance. She glanced over to find Kirishima and mined her running down from some rubble. Whoa, what happened to Deku? It's a long story, let's just say Hothead finally bit off more than he could chew. Wait, did a villain do this to him? And no, he tried to pick a fight with a hero named Deku. Mina jumped up and down in a huff. That's him, Kirishima, that's the guy I was talking about. He's the guy that saved me and Suyuin on the boat. Kirishima frowned while looking over Bakugo's injuries. Well, he sounds like bad news, trying to show us up and knocking the crap out of Bakugo like this. Uraraka got upset in his comment, and threw a rock right at the red porcupine's head. The loud booming noise was getting louder and more frequent the closer I got to Aizawa. Just what in the hell was going on? My question was soon answered when I saw the giant mutant monster going toe-to-toe against All Might himself, and it looked like the monster was winning. But where was Aizawa? A quick glance around revealed that my sensei was piled underneath a bunch of rubble. Aizawa, are you okay? I ran up to him and started removing all the debris that covered him up. He looked like a freight train had hit him. His clothes were torn, cuts covered his body, and he was severely bleeding from the head. I took his capture device and his knife to cut some strips and bandage him up. I was looking for other injuries when I noticed his lips were moving. Doing my best to try to understand, I knelt forward to try to listen to what important message he was saying. You have to save. That was all I was able to understand from Aizawa before he passed out. I turned around to see that the creature had All Might pinned down, and that it seemed like the creature's boss was giving him some sort of monologue. Taking a runner's stance, I used the boot to propel myself forward and aimed right at the leader, tackling him away from All Might. Hey, nice mask, would it hurt if I took off? What kind of stupid crack is that? The blue-haired boy hissed before taking a swipe at me. Thankfully the tackle left him momentarily disoriented and I was able to jump up and backwards to avoid a direct hit. His hand grabbed the bottom of my mask while simultaneously activating his quirk, which decayed the part of the mask he touched, leaving my lower jaw exposed. Man, it must nerve-wracking using the bathroom. Stop talking. He lunged at me with a flurry of swipes, while I looked for an opportunity to strike back at him. After a few close calls, he went for a right swipe, which I quickly dodged before rushing his right side. I grabbed a tight hold of his wrist and twisted it until he let out a gasp of pain. He then cried out, "Namu." I looked to see the man-beast stampeding towards me and giving me a huge backhand, sending me flying several feet away. "Oh yay, that's a broken rib," I wheezed, rolling over and looking up to see the monstrosity before me. To its right was the leader, who was scratching the hell out of his neck in a very violent and unpleasant manner. He was actually starting to bleed from the scratches he inflicted. This whole time I thought that this guy was some sort of mastermind criminal, but in reality it seemed he was almost throwing a type of tantrum because his side wasn't winning. "I've had it with you, Namu. Kill him." I was hoping the great symbol of peace would come to my aid, but it seemed like his fight with Namu had left him struggling to get up. Namu must have found All Might's past injury and exploited the hell out of it. The beast let out a blood-curdling roar as it lifted both arms to hammer down on me. Waiting for the hit, I put my arms above my head. Then suddenly I felt a sudden chill. I looked up and saw the creature encased in ice, struggling to get free. "What the hell are you waiting for? Get out of there." My savior was another classmate of Uraraka, his hair reminding me of a peppermint, white on one side and red on the other. Taking this opening, I ran to his side. "Hey, thanks for the assist. Name's Deku." "Don't care, now get ready." Not much of a people person, I figured, taking a stance. Of course the ice didn't hold the creature for long. With a little more struggling, it shattered the ice. In a rage, it smashed its fists onto the ground and the concrete broke apart from the force of impact. It picked up some pieces and began to fling it at us with his tremendous strength. We did our best to avoid being hit and begun to form a plan to retaliate. My newest partner would freeze the creature's limbs while I would strike it with a marble shot. It went back and forth like this until we thought we had him on the ropes, until we realized we had only succeeded at further angering our adversary. "Hey Peppermint, I have an idea." "What is it? And don't call me Peppermint or I'll freeze you too." "I need you to freeze his whole body except for his head." "What do you hope to accomplish?" "Just do it before they have to scrape our dead bodies off the ground." My temporary partner looked at me unpersuaded for a moment longer before deciding to go along with me plan. The creature's body began to freeze over again. This time he made sure the ice was thicker to hold him in longer. I launched myself onto the beast's shoulders and put both hands on his head. I set the shock gloves as high as it would allow and gave it everything I could. Its scream was ear-piercing as it echoed through the facility. "Come on, come on, come on, just pass out already." I started to smell a burning odor. I was cooking this thing's flesh and I could still feel him struggling beneath me. "What is this thing?" My hands started to burn too. The gloves were beginning to smoke. I had to stop now or else they'd catch on fire. The moment I released the Namu's head, I knew it was a fatal mistake. Namu broke through the top part of the ice to grab and crush me. My body felt like I had been caught between two boulders. He then threw me with such force I broke through a couple of trees. Namu smashed through the rest of the ice and went after my new teammate, leaving me lying there, too wounded to currently move. Everything was going dark, my breathing was becoming shallow. Could this be it? Izuku. That voice. It was familiar. "Izuku, get up." I opened my eyes a bit to look around, but there was nobody around. "Izuku, please get up." May. May was somehow able to communicate with me. "Izuku, thank goodness you're okay. Are you able to walk over to me? We need to get out of here. The power storage is at 95%. Her voice was filled with immense panic. I forced myself to get on my feet, coughing out blood and wheezing for air. "And no, I can't leave yet." "Izuku, what are you talking about? You have 3 broken ribs, a fractured arm, and some internal bleeding. Please, I'm begging you, leave it to the pros. They should be coming in any moment. Then I have to make sure that until then, nobody dies." I started to shuffle my way back to the battlefield, holding my arm in place. "Izuku, I'm sorry." May's tone got summer. "Sorry for what?" She got quiet for a moment, struggling to find the right words. For not being completely honest with you." What do you mean?" "I haven't been telling you the truth. About everything. About why I was so willing to help you. About the battery. And why I was adamant about coming here. I'm sorry, Izuku, for lying to you. I didn't know how to feel. I should have felt betrayed, angry, sad, or disappointed. Maybe it was because I was at death's doorstep that I was willing to forgive all that. But I just wanted to hear one last thing from May. Was everything you said to me a lie?" What do you mean? "Did you mean it, when you told me that I could be a hero?" May was completely silent for a moment before, "Yes, I meant it. On the night we escaped UA. I knew you could be. Because you're my hero." I could hear her bust out in tears. "That's all I need to know. Maybe you can tell me the rest when I get back. There's something I want to tell you." I placed 2 fingers on the side of my mask and shorted out the radio, cutting me off from May. I then proceed to limp my way over to face the end. I saw Namu grabbing the UA student by the head and was squeezing it. I could hear his screams of pain. All Might was still struggling to get up, but I could tell he still needed a little time which I was about to buy for him. I fired 2 marbles right at Namu's arms and neck, releasing the student. I didn't stop, I kept pelting the bird creature with a constant barrage of shooting stars, forcing him to back away. I walked over to the student who was coughing up blood, not easing up from my assault. Name, I demand from him. He looked up, shocked that I was still alive, let alone walking. Shoto Todoroki. Todoroki, I need you to go over to All Might and see if you can help him up. We're gonna need him. Todoroki nodded in understanding and ran over to the symbol of peace. Namu let out a loud roar as it tried to make a charge at Todoroki, but I boosted over to the beast and gave it a swift kick to the back of the head. Sorry, but this a private dance, couples only. Namu tried to reach over and grab me, but I was pushing the boots to their limit and managed to zip to the ground and deliver an uppercut right in Namu's abdomen. I zipped away again and came back behind it, with a kick to the side this time. I kept dashing around Namu and would land an attack in a random part of its body. All the while I could feel the battery humming loudly and the heat getting hotter by the minute. Any second my short hero career could be over. I started to think about everything that led up to today, my encounter with All Might, Spinal Tap, and my mother's near-death experience. All terrible things that have happened to me. At first I used to think these moments were all a sign telling me that my life was pointless, and that I should just give in to the darkness. Until I met Mei Hatsum, the girl with the weird eyes, bubblegum hair, and blunt attitude. It was her own experiences with bad fortune that helped me realize that all these bad luck runs didn't have to mean the end, as long as I have at least one person that believes in me. Every failure she had didn't damper her spirits, they only made her want to try even harder, and when she was close to giving up, she always had me to cheer her on. And that's the kind of hero that I want to be, the one that helps everyone. I don't want anyone to be left in the darkness, I want to be the light that gives them hope. Namu found an opening and managed to land a partial hit on me. I rolled on the ground before getting back up, the battery starting to spark violently. This was it, time to show my last resolve. I positioned both of the thunderballs in my hands and with the last use of the gloves, I fired them just like the marbles. The force was so strong they pierced right through Namu. I used my boots to whiz around Namu, this time using the tough strength of fiber attached to the thunderballs to wrap around him. I continued circling around him with the fiber, until one of my boots exploded, smoke pouring out. It was fine, all I really needed was one boot anyhow. It was becoming more strenuous to move around, what with the giant crucible on my chest shooting out sparks more and more frequently. I managed to wrap Namu up tightly enough to where he couldn't break out, although it was struggling viciously. I put my boot up on its chest, or as far up as I could reach, and branded an uneasy grin on my face. Sorry you can't get out this one. My heart was beating so fast about what was to happen next. But don't worry, we're going to go on the ride of a lifetime. Energy started to expand from the baddie. It was an awesome power that made the air feel like I was being roasted alive. It got bigger and bigger, catching everything on fire, my suit, and Namu's and my skin. I was happy knowing that at least in the end I was about to do something heroic. At least it what I thought. It happened so fast, but to me, I could remember every detail like it happened frame by frame. A portal had opened up next to Namu. At first I thought it was an attempt at an escape, but it didn't matter, I'd have followed him. No, it was their leader, the spoiled brat with the hands placed all around him. He jumped through the portal and swiped his hands all over the wires, rusting them before jumping in another portal. The whole time he was grinning demonically. Namu broke free and slammed his fists to the ground, the force being so much that I actually bounced in the air. Once in midair he grabbed my head. Readying one last punch he drove it straight into my chest. On top of the battery breaking, the protective glass shattered, burning the device into me. The force from the battery breaking was so strong I was sent flying backwards, out of Namu's grasp. All Might had finally recovered and was about to catch me. But the battery finally unleashed a huge explosion. I was sent way out of the USJ facility and landed in a forest outside. I was screaming until I started to black out. This was it. Game over.